we're ready. We're here.
Kind of on time, sort of.
It's exactly 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as per usual. Welcome tonight.
Hello.
I'm not even gonna say it. I'm not even gonna say it.
Oh, we are live. Oh shit.
We are live. We're absolutely. It's streaming.
We are absolutely. We're with Ali Khamseh.
I've brutalized it. As every Thursday night, we do a Geeky Gamer podcast with music by all lowercase letters and Mr. Interrupt. Thanks to our Patreon folks, Tim Roberts, Daniel Hulker, Nostalgic, and Natalia Klein. Art and media by Couchfire Media. And to our Replay Productions brings us all that lovely content that we love so very much.
We love the content.
It's the Geeky Gamer podcast.
Yeah. Holy shit. We've been, what episode is this?
This is 17.
17 with Ali.
Oh, hello.
Khamseh. Ali, who are you?
That is a very philosophical question. I don't think we ever will know who we really are as like people in general. But if I were to introduce myself, I'd say I'm a 27-year-old Persian bearded nerd.
I see.
Yeah. Who is into movies, probably a little too good for his own, probably a little too much for his own good. Sorry, English is my second language.
It's okay. Mine too.
You
got bad English, you got good English. This is my second language.
You have mine. Movie-based English. I learned to speak English from movies, which is why I pronounce things weirdly, because in my head, I'm trying to imitate Jeremy Irons in like Die Hard with a Vengeance or Damage or Dead Ringers.
Yes.
Up here, I'm very dignified.
Yeah.
Down here, not so much. But I am from Iran. I work as a writer, director, occasional actor. I'm studying cinema for my master's. I very recently, like a month ago, finished production on a short movie, and I make YouTube videos as well for anyone who likes to see videos about stuff nobody cares about.
Oh yeah, I know how that is.
I was watching your YouTube earlier today, and I found it to be very enlightening. I haven't seen any of your films, and I definitely hope to at some point to have some access. But I did enjoy a little insight on what's going on at the AK-88 studios. Where are you right now, Ali?
I am in my room in Tehran.
Oh, you're in Tehran.
Yeah. I'm in the.
What time is it over there?
2:40 a.m.
Woo!
Early.
So,
how do you
stay up? Like, how do you stay up that late? At about at 3 o'clock, I'm usually done.
I mean, to be honest, I'm asleep most of the day these days. In particular, because recently we had our holidays. It was the Persian New Year, Nowruz. We are in a new year, and there's like a 2-week holiday then. And during that, my sleeping schedule it went to hell. I sleep at around 7 a.m. I wake up at around 6 p.m. I'm sorry. And then I work through the night. Sadly, I have to work very quietly not to wake up the other residents of the house, which means I can't do a lot of stuff. Also, not a lot of paperwork I can do, because a lot of other official places don't usually, work in those hours.
Yeah. I feel that I am a night owl as well, right? So you have a lark, right? Who those are the people that get up in the morning. Crazy people. You got night owls. And that's definitely a thing. Once you get into like the serious night owl life, like you're right. Like to go mail a letter, you can't do it because it's the
Yeah.
traffic is there, whatever. But that's enough of my blathering. We're interested, obviously, in literally everything you just said, because we don't know anything. We're very ignorant. Okay, you said Iran. You said you're doing a master's of cinema, and you have just finished a short film. So obviously,
Finish the production of a short film. I haven't
production, that was the
started
question.
post.
I see. So if you wouldn't mind, before we get into the nitty gritty of this stuff, fuck that, we're gonna get right into the nitty gritty of this stuff.
Yes, that's the best way.
What's it about? How'd you shoot it? Ken's got a whole bunch of questions because Ken's the director as well.
Well, it's a quasi-horror film. It's about a man who has a monster in his yard, and the monster keeps exercising more and more control over the man's life. I'm not going to spoil the ending, but that is the gist of the movie. I've actually used a lot of Hammer horror movies as inspiration for the visual style of it, like the muted colors, the dirty feeling of everything. Like we went to the location with my set assistant, and she wanted to clean some of the area. I was like, no, I want the dust. Leave the dust alone. I want it to be dusty. I want everything to look decrepit. And because a lot of those Hammer movies, they're unusually dusty. They add dust to it.
Okay. Continue.
That's the what it's about portion of it. How did I shoot it? I basically trusted fully in my director of photography, and he delivered, honestly. I just told him I want it to look like this, and this is how I want the movie to be shot, and he delivered. We shot the movie it's shot full frame, but it's going to be 4:3 aspect ratio, which is a throwback to old Iranian TV shows, which is another source of my inspiration. And everything it's a slow movie. It's going to be very long. Like I originally thought it was going to be 45 minutes. Right now, I am halfway believing I made a feature film because it was long.
So are you one of the directors do you know what kind of camera they shot with? Do you know the lenses, or do you just kind of frame it up, shoot it? I'm going to work with the actors and go.
I am more of a second type. To be honest, I don't know the nitty gritty of the camera. I still don't. Mostly because this is me being lazy. I don't have a lot of interest in camera specifically. Like, for me, I like working with actors much more. I can work with actors much better than I can work with the camera. But I know we used I think we read Komodo. We shot the movie in 6K, which was a stupid decision. It was a stupid, because most of the movie doesn't even need to be in 6K, but we did it.
Yeah, but you can. It doesn't matter what you do. You can crop in. I mean, that's the magic.
Exactly.
Hey, you can. You just point the camera in the right direction. It's fine.
Exactly. And the thing is that it's 1.5 terabyte of file. Like, I don't have that space.
It's massive.
Yeah.
How do you find your actors? How do you go about casting a film in Iran?
I mean, to be honest, there are places, like there are acting schools which you can go and ask them, can I have a list of your graduates who, because usually they ask their graduates, do you want to be on the list that we can give people? And there is one way of doing that. There is another way, which I was originally going to do, is that you go and see theaters, like local theaters, student theaters, and see which of the actors are better, and then contact them directly. The way I casted my movie was I had worked with an actor in a play reading when I was occasionally acting. We did a play reading of Uncle Vanya. He was Dr. Ostrov. I was Alexander, the old guy, Sergio. I remember the name. And he was a great actor, and I basically asked him, do you want to be in my movie? And for the other roles, one of the roles specifically, I actually wrote for one of my classmates because I wanted him to play that role. So I went in knowing, his name is Ahmed. Ahmed is going to play that role. I'm going to write it for him. I'm going to use his mannerism. He's a very calm individual. So I was like, okay, the characters needs to be calm. And another one of the actors we just found, honestly, by chance, we just did an ad in a social media site, and he came and said, I'm an actor, I can work with you. And he was pretty good as well.
And so it's a horror film, and you know, spoiler alert and stuff like that. How do you find that? Because horror is a difficult genre. How do you scare? Like what do you do to scare an individual? How do you scare your audience?
Honestly, I don't think anyone is going to be scared by it in the sense that it's not going to be like, oh, I'm scared. There is no adrenaline rush. You know, I don't have a jump scare in it, to be precise. I think the horror comes from the way that those old Hammer horror movies came. Is that, or in particular, the kind of horror I love is most subtle ones that you think about and become scared. And one of my favorite movies of all time is Videodrome by David Cronenberg. I love that. It's a great
I don't think
movie.
I know it. What's it called? Videodrome?
Videodrome. It's a portmanteau of video and syndrome.
I see. Videodrome.
It's great. It stars certified crazy person James Woods, and there is a scene in it.
That's right out of the 80s, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's like,
I mean,
classic.
I'm not very old myself, but I have a soul of a boomer. I've seen a lot of old movies. I listen to Frank Sinatra unironically. I'm in the mood for music. Let me listen to Frank Sinatra or Beatles. Oh, I don't like these new songs. I'm gonna go listen to, I don't know, Louis Armstrong play his trumpet.
There's nothing wrong with that.
You might actually like some of. Have you heard of Trauma?
Oh, the
like Citizen the Trauma movies.
Yeah.
Avenger. Yeah. So I've worked with some of those guys. And some different films. So like I kind of get a little bit of where you're coming from with horror. It doesn't necessarily have to be, and I'm not saying that that's the style you went in, but certainly the suspense. You said it's a long film that you created. You know, the horror. Have you ever seen like Jennifer Lynch's Boxing Helena?
I haven't.
It's David Lynch's daughter made a film, and it's not scary because, you know, the lead character is this beautiful woman, and she traps this guy and slowly starts, you know, he falls and has an accident, and she kind of traps him in a smaller and smaller box, basically. It's such a wonderful suspense, really long scenes, but it's like the scariness is in your head, you know.
I completely get that. Again, that's the thing about Videodrome. One of the scariest scenes for me, I'm sorry, it's a massive spoiler, sorry about that, but it's an old movie. I mean,
you can spoil 80s films at this point. I think that's fair.
It's James Woods with a gun that literally is connected to his flesh. Like the gun is, it's part of him. He puts the gun to his head and says, "Long live new flesh." And well, that scene scared me beyond belief, because the more I think about it, it's like, oh, how does it feel to lose yourself so much to a concept? Here, it's literally like new flesh. It's a sci-fi concept. But how does it feel to lose yourself to the point that you're willing to do that? And that has been the most interesting thing about horror to me. It's all of those personal connections. It's that's the hope that's what I'm hoping to achieve with the movie as well. I want people to think, oh, how does this person does these things? And you realize that it's actually much easier than you think. If to quote the comic book that Alan Moore hates that he wrote, all it takes is a bad day.
I've never heard of that one.
What is that comic book?
The Killing Joke.
Oh, the killing.
Oh, like the band.
It's the one where Joker kills Robin. Yeah.
Oh.
No, that's not it. No, that's not that. It's the one where Joker shoots Barbara Gordon and takes Commissioner Gordon to the carnival ride, and we learn Joker's backstory. It's the only kind of like quasi backstory.
Does Batgirl, is she in it?
I mean, Barbara Gordon is Batgirl.
Okay, that is Batgirl, and that's how she gets paralyzed.
Yeah.
Right.
And then she becomes. It's a whole. It's not a bad comic. It has a massive issue nowadays. I mean, not nowadays. I mean, in retrospect, when you think about it, there are a lot of problems that came from just a culture of Moore's writing back in the day. But it has that famous line, all it takes is one bad day. And it's like Joker is trying to prove to Batman that by creating the worst day for Commissioner Gordon will become a crazy person. Yeah, a villain. But he doesn't. That's the thing. Like, he doesn't. He is more resilient than Joker. And Batman tells him, maybe it wasn't a bad day, maybe it was you.
Ooh. So why does
Commissioner Gordon is pretty altruistic? He's a tough one. He's a tough nut to crack. So, I mean, that's his superpower, I think. And it's probably what it played with. It's like, where can you take it? Can you break that guy? Batman, on the other hand, he's already broken. So I think.
Oh yeah. It doesn't work with Batman himself, because I mean, where else you can take him? He already is a violent vigilante.
Yeah, he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like masquerading as a good guy.
Comics. So everything I know about comics is from like secondhand. I mean, I read a few graphic novels, right? That were given to me. They were like, "Hey, look, you should read these." But my knowledge is not so extensive. Like I read V for Vendetta.
Sandman.
Sandman. I read most of it. But...
I actually have the Killing Joke this is a bookshelf. If people who are listening to this are not seeing it, I'm pointing to a bookshelf, and I actually do have the Killing Joke here. I don't think I can give it to you because the shipping cost alone will outweigh getting a new copy.
What? Okay, there's so much.
I got a couple of questions. Some of my questions as well. You said Hammer Films. I don't know. Is that a film production company?
Oh yeah. Hammer Productions is a old British company. They made a lot of horror movies back in the late 50s. Yes, Dracula. Christopher Lee's Dracula.
Yeah, the Hammer Films. Yeah,
exactly. And they made a lot of good horror movies. They inadvertently, like they didn't set out to, but inadvertently they created a style that, honestly, it's incredibly unique to them, I think. A lot of people have been influenced by it, though. Like, if you take out Hammer from cinema history, you lose people like Guillermo del Toro, Tim Burton, certainly. Tim Burton literally made a Hammer movie. Sleepy Hollow is a Hammer movie in essence. And you lose people like Lars von Trier. You probably lose a lot of influence to Martin Scorsese. These were people who were brought up on these movies. They were seen as like the cool horror movies of the 60s. The underground one, the rebel ones. And they are actually incredibly good. Like one of my favorite ones is The Devil Rides Out. It's not even a Dracula movie. It has Christopher Lee in it and Charles Gray. It's about Satanists, and it is incredible. Like how the movie looks, it is goofy. Like it's not gonna scare you, but it has a style. Like I think it's pretty hard not to get sucked in by that style.
Most of what I know about that stuff is from Christopher Lee interviews, because I don't come at it from a director point of view. I come at it from more of an actor point of view. And I was interested in why a guy like Christopher Lee would be in those movies. Because, I'm coming at it from backwards. I'd never seen them and that sort of thing. And that's where I learned about it. He obviously really respected it at the beginning. I think they may have become something else later on. But,
yes.
But I don't know that definitively. Like, anyway, tell us more. You clearly have your roots in directing and have a lot of history and knowledge about this.
I mean, to be honest, I think my roots are more in writing, because even before I knew I was going to become a director, I wanted to become a writer. I wanted to become a novelist. And then I watched The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and it was like, nope, fuck that. I want to do this. I want to do what they're doing. Because honestly, and this is going to be controversial, I believe all art is subjective. All art is great in their own place. There are things a book can do that a movie can never do. But I want to find a book that can do the Mexican standoff as well as The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly does. The last 5 minutes of that movie.
Yeah, because it's forever. It's like
you like the spaghetti western,
Oh yeah. I love spaghetti westerns. Actually, my master's thesis is going to be about spaghetti westerns, because I love them so much, honestly.
Do you have a particular film that really calls you outside The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly was a pretty major film, I think.
All right.
Yeah,
It's okay.
Actually, it's my favorite movie of all time, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
But Once Upon a Time in the West, for
exactly
more dollars more, The Big Gun Down.
Yeah, the big. There are if I want to say a couple of directors whose works I think everyone should kind of be familiar with if they want to go into spaghetti westerns, it's the three Sergios: Sergio Leone, Sergio Corbucci, Sergio Solima. They made a lot of great movies together. Not together, they were friends, but separately.
Yeah, sure.
Sergio Leone is actually my favorite director of all time. He made 6 movies, 7, but we don't talk about the first one. He made 6 movies, and they are all masterpieces. The Dollar Trilogy, of course, A Fistful of Dollars for a Few Dollars More,
Yeah.
The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And then he made Once Upon a Time in the West, which to a lot of people is actually much better than The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, I've heard. And I can understand why. It's a much more mature film. Like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly feels like a kid playing with his action figures, but Once Upon a Time in the West is that kid writing about his action figures. And then he made one of his most underrated movies, Docu-Sucker, which has 2 other names: Once Upon a Time, A Revolution, A Fistful of Dynamite. They really tried to connect it to his past works, but it stars Rod Steiger and James Coburn. It's a great movie. And then he made Once Upon a Time in America, and then he died. But
And then he fucking died.
yeah.
What do you think?
I had never heard of any of those.
Yeah.
Oh.
What do you think about the way he uses sound? Do you try to use sound in your films similar to that, or because Once Upon a Time in the West, it was the suspense was the harmonica. That's what made it intense.
to be honest, there is a few things about Once Upon a Time in the West specifically that I believe, like it shows us the deep understanding that he had of not just the art of movie making, but the business of movie making. Like he wanted Henry Fonda to be the villain.
Right, and he's lauded as one of the better villains. There's a
Yeah.
And Henry Fonda
Yeah.
was on it. One of my acting people was just, "Hey, did you know this?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, he is great in that movie as Frank. And it's like he knew that the perception of Henry Fonda is the hero. He's John Ford's hero. He's the hero in Grapes of Wrath. He's the hero in Jesse James. He is the hero. And then you bring that hero in and make it the villain of your movie. And he doesn't disfigure him in any way. He doesn't have a scar. He doesn't have a mustache. Nothing. The same blue eyes. And it's Henry Fonda. It's Henry Fonda as the villain. And I think it shows a great understanding of what people probably thought and how to, break their expectations. And then when you come to the music of it, like, okay, I think Leone would have been nothing without Ennio Morricone, and Ennio Morricone would have been nothing without Sergio Leone. Together, they just, like you said, the opening of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, it's iconic because Sergio Leone... Exactly.
Sorry.
The coyote yell is so great, and it's because Sergio Leone knew how to use it effectively. It is corny, I'm not going to say... It's not like you see it and it's like, okay, this is the cheesiest way to use this. But
Shut
it's
up,
the correct
Ali.
way.
Cool as shit. It's awesome.
Exactly. It is all of that. Like literally, he throws a gun at the other person and you hear the coyote yell. He uses it. It's a joke from the movie that I love because every other Western has used it, including Django Unchained and Rango. The last word of the movie, the last line of dialogue is, "Hey Blondie, you know what you are? Just a dirty son of a..." And then the coyote. Yeah. Exactly.
So good. So
Yeah,
good.
it's
By the way,
so good.
really quick aside, Ken, I don't know if you heard this or not. Ali, you and I were wrong. I just realized. Ken's shirt is not the Iron Giant. It is a play on the Iron Giant.
Did you guys talk about that?
We did.
Oh yeah.
It is not. It is from Hold on, Ken. Let me finish. It's from I, Robot, the actual short stories from Isaac Asimov.
Oh, yeah.
In that book, the first robot is a giant robot. The thing is, it looks like the Iron Giant.
Not the Iron Giant.
It's not the Iron Giant.
I thought it
Although
was the
it's
Iron
nice.
Giant.
In a
Yeah,
weird way, it actually could be. It probably is the idea because in that short story, it's the very first short story in the book. That giant robot, it's like 30 feet tall or something. It's huge. Saves a little girl, and they think that it's going to kill the little girl, but it actually is saving the little girl, which is like the Iron Giant. Okay, that's all.
Oh, it's because you learned that, you know, to kill the little girl, that goes against everything that robots stand for one.
The three laws of robotic.
Right.
The 3 laws of robotic. You know, first, do you know the 3 laws?
You cannot harm or allow to be harmed a human being.
Yeah,
that's first.
Yeah.
The second is you cannot willfully harm yourself as a robot.
Unless
third,
it interferes with the first rule.
Right.
That's the thing. It always harkens back to the last rule.
Which is that programming, and that's why the movie sucks.
Oh yeah, but the movie is not. The movie's not.
It butchers it.
It's not the book.
I know. That's the thing. The movie is
It would be a good story. It's just it's the same. Okay, I'm gonna go on a rant. We're not gonna get into my rants. My point was, for anyone listening to the beginning of this podcast, now we see that it says iRobot, and we know the reference. That's it. We have our street.
Well, I mean, to be honest, it still looks like Iron. Like if I,
the Iron Giant looks like that.
Yeah. They probably used that as an inspiration for the Iron Giant. I mean, Definitely.
Had to.
Yeah.
As AI moves forward, everything will look exactly like everything else. There's going to be no difference. Everything will just kind of blend as one thing.
Yeah. There is a thing I actually hate. Like, speaking of horror, there's a thing I hate in that all the new horror movies, they look so polished, and I hate that.
You mean like A24 films?
No, not eight. No, I'm talking mainstream, like studio movies,
mainstream.
like Universal.
yeah.
Like, fairly recently, I watched. Sadly, I do not recommend it. I watched The Last Voyage of the Demeter. It's not good. It's the Demeter is the ship that carried Dracula from Transylvania to
right.
England, and it arrived to England without anyone on it.
Yeah.
And it's a horror action movie, but it looked so polished that I think it makes it sterile. Like, there's a thing that we love about all of those 80s movies that we love is that they didn't look polished. Like Evil Dead, I don't know if you've seen the original.
Who hasn't seen that movie? You can't not see that movie.
Yes.
Exactly. I don't know. A lot of people, I think, remember it much better made than it was. It's not well made in a technical sense, but it is creative. Like Sam Raimi did a lot of stuff that probably nowadays you can't do. Not because I'm not talking. I don't know. Just because they won't give him money to do that, because it is experimental. You to use camera in that way to make the movie looks, to make the movie look so gross and dirty, and it lacks polish, but that's what makes it unique. Everything nowadays just looks the same. I can't tell you that. Like, show me a picture of a movie, modern movie, I probably can't tell you which movie it's from because they all look the same.
Well, and then if you look at I think there was an Evil Dead that came out in 2023.
It's like a series, right?
Yeah.
No, it's a movie.
It's a movie.
It's a movie, but it's a lot.
I've seen the poster. Yeah, it's a woman smiling. The poster, I mean.
Yeah, it's the mom in the basement.
Yeah.
So, Jesus Christ, Ali, can you actually see what we're streaming? I don't think he's sharing the screen.
I can't honestly.
I'm not sharing it.
Sadly,
we should send the YouTube link. We'll send you the link.
I'll send you.
No, the problem is I have only one monitor.
Yes. I see.
Yeah.
Well, no, don't worry.
We were talking about our setups earlier, and the problem is I have only one monitor. I can't really divide it that much.
Lord,
I'm watching the Evil Dead Rise trailer that came out last year, and it's everything is just really I think it's less scary because it's not gritty. It's Evil Dead was shot on 16 millimeter film, and there's something that's not scary about being able to see the monster. Like once you show the monster, I can defeat that. I can just it can't stop me.
Exactly.
I got a question for you, Ali. A couple things. One, it seems like maybe one of your focuses is horror, and I would like to investigate that as to why. And we've had a few people on here that have talked about horror, so I'd like your opinions on it and where you come from. The second thing I wanted to ask, how are you funding your films? Because it sounds like the camera that you had and is a pretty good camera, and it sounds like you have people that help you. So I know there's two completely different questions, but I'd like to put those in the world.
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, for horror, I think there are two genres in particular that I believe can talk to our most basic instincts. They're comedy and horror. And horror, I feel like everyone who makes horror is a fascinating person to me, because whether they want it or not, they are showing something of themselves, and that is true of me of the same, because you can't make horror without being scared yourself. Like, you have to be scared of something. Everyone is scared of something, and
You guys are.
most horror. I mean,
I'm kidding.
I'm scared of a lot. No, I know I'm scared of a lot of things. Genuinely, I have a fear of height so bad I can't go like on top of the second rung of a ladder.
Mm.
And I know it's not obvious from because I'm sitting and it's a video. I'm 193 centimeters tall. I don't know what that is in feet. Yeah, I'm an incredible,
or something like that.
Yeah, I'm an extremely tall person, and so I'm living in constant fear of heights. So.
Did you say 193?
Yeah, 193 centimeters.
Have you seen Vertigo, the film?
I have seen Vertigo. That's one of the problems I have with that movie. I have that exact same conditions. That movie is not a believable condition of vertigo and fear of heights.
What about high anxiety?
I've seen I love high anxiety. I love high anxiety. One of the things that. Oh, 6'3".
With shoes, you're probably 6'4".
Yeah. I mean, I have to, because I'm quite a large person, I have to wear shoes with pretty big, like, I don't know, the bottom part of the shoe.
It's sole.
Sole, yes.
Yeah.
So,
You got thick soles, man.
Yes, I have very thick soles.
That's right.
You know, it's hard. It's hard to be. Jimmy Stewart is not like. Every time he starts talking, you just want to give him a hug.
Yeah, exactly. That is why the movie that I love from him, obviously cliched enough, is It's a Wonderful Life. And I think It's a Wonderful Life, nobody can do it but Jimmy Stewart. Like, no, bring Marlon Brando to do It's a Wonderful Life, it cannot be done.
Yeah, well, he's too dark. He's too dark for it.
Yeah.
Is it Mr. Smith Goes to Washington? Is that Jimmy Stewart?
Yeah.
Yes, that's also Jimmy Stewart.
That's the one that I like him in. And It's a Wonderful Life. I want to punch him in the face over.
Why?
Because it's so optimistic.
It's too optimistic.
I hate it. I can't stand it.
I really love that movie because he's so optimistic. Like, I know it,
that's the point.
Because I like horror. Yeah, that's the point. Like, it's a movie that no matter how many times I've seen it, and I've seen it probably over 12 times, 24 times, and every time I see it, at the last moment where he says, "Look, Daddy, our teacher said every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings." Every time
What?
I cry at that scene. Like, genuinely, I cry.
God.
There's actually an old SNL skit that is literally like that. At the end of it, they realize Potter is the person who got the money, so they go and beat him up.
Well, that's the thing. Jimmy Stewart in that movie, he's a banker, isn't he?
He's a builder, I think.
He's a builder.
He's a real estate developer, yeah.
Oh, I thought he was a banker. Well, anyway.
I think Potter isn't a banker. The bad guy is also a real estate developer. He's a slumlord.
Okay.
So, I didn't realize this. William Shatner, I guess, does the narration on the SNL version of It's Wonderful Life, the lost ending. So, yes. That takes us to the next series of questions we need to get into. Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Trek. Star Trek.
Live long and prosper, motherfucker.
Okay, so here's the thing.
Yes.
Here's the thing. I agree with you. I'm a Trekker, not a Trekkie.
Yeah.
I'm a Trekker. I agree with you. I think that they bastardized Star Trek with Discovery. I think they lost their way.
I mean, that is true, but also that is true of Star Wars and like the what was the last one? The Rise of Skywalker, which was one of the dumbest movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, like you get into. I know it's a tired argument, but Star Wars is its own thing. Whatever.
Yeah.
they turned on the fans. With whatever they were trying to do and accomplish and such, it may be a great thing, but they definitely turned on the fans on that. Just speaking, we can talk about it. We can talk about it. What I say is not truth.
Oh, we at the very beginning of this show, we discussed that this is all subjective.
Yeah.
Discovery is awful. Now I know. Okay, the first season of Discovery, I have not seen past it. I have just no interest. I love Star Trek. I like all of the Star Treks. I like Enterprise, except for the very last episode.
Well, yeah,
of Enterprise.
They got canceled.
Have the Federation all wrong. They're not. They're not a dystopia. I mean, you can say they are, and they play with that, ad nauseum in Star Trek: Next Generation and Voyager and Section 30, whatever 33 or whatever the fuck it is. My point is, like, they're showing this dark side of them. Michael Brannon, is that her name? Shouldn't be treated the way she is. Okay.
Oh yeah, I didn't buy that either. The way they treated her in the beginning of that, she made a call, and officers make tough calls. That's just part of the gig.
Yeah, and she was unsubordinate or insubordinate, whatever. It led to Michelle. Cool. Do your thing. Do your fucking thing. Fine. Here's my issue. They started breaking canon, and people who were stereotypically apologists of I'm gonna call it the woke agenda, just to dive right into this.
Aw.
We're like, oh, look at you, me, look at you, Bill, you're a you, and that's the reason, and you don't like anyone else that doesn't look like all this crap. Okay, fine. What happens in like season 2, season 3 of Discovery? What happens? What is it? Oh, they turn out, or they realize that they have written themselves into a fucking corner. They have no idea how to get out of it, and so they turn and twist it into this. Oh, it's an alternate reality.
Yeah,
bullshit.
I think my issue is coming from taking mild offense with the word. I wouldn't call it woke. It's called bad writing.
Yeah. Are you kidding?
The thing is it's the opposite. It's anti-woke. If anything, by them,
it is not woke.
It is not woke.
Okay,
It looks woke. It acts woke.
You guys are correct. In the original spirit of what woke is,
it is the opposite.
But,
it is breaking down. You said your thing. I'm going to say my thing. It is breaking down a bunch of stuff that we know and we're already aware of that is wrong, and treatment of people that is wrong. That it should be at this point in time, just that's part of the scenery. It's not something they needed to go into as deeply. And I get that Star Trek is supposed to be a reflection of what's going on right now in this day and age, but I don't get it that we need to be. It's like browbeating. It's not woke. It's browbeating.
Ken and Ali, when people who are against being quote unquote woke, when they say, oh, that's so fucking woke, that is literally what they're saying. They're saying you're a bunch of intolerant, browbeating fascists who are going to cannibalize yourselves with your woke agenda. That literally is the argument. I agree with you.
To be honest, I know what they're saying, but I think they're wrong. Because it's not the woke agenda that's killing Star Trek. It's actually, if I were to say, there is the same thing happened to another show, like eerily similar, Doctor Who. And a lot of people were like, oh, it's a woke agenda. I'm like, yeah, the doctor that literally talks about the importance of holding up capitalist institutions like Amazon is woke. You're right, because she's a girl. Okay.
Right, that's interesting. And the thing is, I was excited that you had a female doctor. I thought it was cool as shit. But
yeah.
then they do something with it that twists. You guys continue with what you're saying, because what you both are saying is interesting. It's interesting
Honestly,
about what is woke, what is not woke. Go.
The problem I have is not, it's, honestly, I'm not going to go into the woke thing because...
Please do. Correct me. Set the record straight.
No, because I don't think that's the problem. The problem is cynicism. Both Star Trek and Doctor Who were very optimistic shows. Star Trek literally was about how things can be optimistic. And honestly, it's a... I know this is probably, it's gonna break my own heart to say it, but I think that Star Trek should have ended with Enterprise, because Star Trek cannot live in a cynical world. Star Trek cannot live post the War on Terror, cannot live post the 2008 financial crash, because at that point people were realizing like, oh, maybe this is too optimistic. I don't agree with them. I believe that we need optimism. I believe we need to look at something to aspire to, and Star Trek was always something, oh, look, we are past the point where everything bad is now done. Now let's discuss like issues in a utopia of sort. And Doctor Who was always about, oh, things can be corrected by one person's effort, like by your effort alone or a team's effort. You cannot correct something good can come from this. And then suddenly we live in a world where it's sort of threw that back in our face. Now, I'm an optimist in nature. I've said it before. So I don't agree with that, but I can see where they're coming from. And both of these shows had to suffer because of it. Because honestly, again, they were too corny. They were.
Yeah, it was cheesy.
Yeah. Star Trek. Yeah, Star Trek is a great show, but it is very optimistic. And honestly, after a certain point, a lot of people are like, okay, are you going to tell me things are going to be good? I'm going to punch you in the fucking face.
Yeah.
Because look at the shit we're in. And I think that's where a lot of misunderstandings came from. Like, people saw Star Trek and thought that, oh, it's not talking about the issues, but it's like, no.
What issues?
Like the issues of the day, like 70s and 80s weren't really great times to be alive, to be honest, especially in my country.
Oh, absolutely.
But, yeah. 1979, something big happened.
Yeah.
Was that Ahmadinejad, or am I? Is that
1979? Right? No, 1979 is the revolution. Ahmadinejad is 2005.
But I thought he was involved in the Jimmy Carr.
Jimmy Carter? No.
Yeah, Jimmy Carter thing.
That's. I think you're mistaken with Rafsanjani.
Maybe
he was also president for a while. Actually,
no, I thought Ahmadinejad was one of the people that helped kidnap. I may be just showing how ignorant I am right now.
No. He was a. Okay, here's the thing. The hostage. You're talking about the hostage situation.
Yeah.
The hostage situation was done by a lot of university students, and Ahmadinejad was probably a university student at that point.
I think he was.
Yeah.
I'm not 100%, but I think so.
But in speaking with Jimmy Carr, like personally dealing with Jimmy Carr, I'm saying Jimmy Carr is the British comedian. Jimmy Carter. Specifically, that was Rafsanjani and like Bozargan and people like that.
Right.
But here's the thing, like Star Trek did talk about those issues, but talked about them in an optimistic way. Like, we can deal with them. We can live in a world where, for example, the class system is broken down, but there are still, we're going to talk about class issues, but in terms of aliens. So we can remove all of the understandings that we have, like basically break it down to their base level problems and then talk about them.
Right.
They did that, but they were too optimistic. And I think that's the problem. We are just too cynical nowadays.
So
And
I have a point about this. That's rooted in what you're saying. Star Trek came out in 1960, 60 to 63?
no, 66.
66?
66.
60.
Yeah,
And it was 3 years.
yeah, to 69.
So, so this is at least in America an incredibly tumultuous time, right? And in the world, it's post-war, etc. So you got postmodernism going on, meaning it's hyper cynicism, and you have a very optimistic show. What I'm trying to say is the world is not too cynical for Star Trek. However, the people that are in charge and want to make money might be. Recently, I was speaking with someone who knows, speaking of Star Wars, who knows Kathleen Kennedy. And I said, what's she like? Because I don't like her. I don't know the woman. I don't like her. There's so many things, that make me go, ugh, but I don't really know this person. And I asked this person, I said, what is she like? And this person said, unpleasant.
Have you ever met a film producer?
No.
Like a real one?
And I was like, well, I've met you, and you're very pleasant. You're roses.
No.
And I was like, why do you
between
think?
independent and like?
I was like, why do you think she's like that? And this person said, probably because of all the stress and all these things, but also some people that are in those positions, it's like they're constantly like they have this cynicism to them, and so it kind of just melds out. I'm not trying to blame all of Star Wars on Kathleen Kennedy.
No, I know. If we're gonna blame all it on one person, it should be. Is it Bob Iger? Who's the president of Disney?
Yeah, now he's the president, but he it switched back and forth.
Yeah.
During that, I mean, supposedly George Lucas owns like tons and tons and tons of stock in that. So, I'm just saying.
I know. Lucas.
Lucas ruined it himself.
Yeah, he's talking about episodes 1, 2, and 3 did suck, y'all. And, just because 7, 8, 9 blew, it doesn't mean 1, 2, and 3.
I think your issue is that you had expectations.
Han Solo fucking died, and I didn't cry. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't
Solo.
have it. Yeah, he died.
To be honest,
but there was no story there, so I mean, who cares?
Yeah, is it controversial to say I liked The Last Jedi?
Why did you like it?
I enjoyed it too.
I mean, because a lot of things that people hated it, I liked it because of that. I liked the fact that Rey's parents were fucking nobodies. I like the fact that it was a smaller story. I like the fact that it didn't have a Skywalker like main connection. Like, oh look, it had Luke, but Luke wasn't the Luke people wanted him to be, and I liked that honestly, because I think if you devote yourself to a religion, basically in this case a fake one, to an extent that you are willing to stand on top of your own nephew, on top of another human being, draw your sword, and just for that one moment realize, okay, I'm not going to do it. But if you go that far, that one moment doesn't count. I think that person would be an unhappy, grumpy person who would not like his past. I think that Luke Skywalker we saw, the grumpy blue milk eating guy who threw away the lightsaber, I think that is probably the logical endgame for him.
Okay, so here's my apologetics for why it's okay to despise those movies.
Right, of course.
Specifically the story. Now, I think what you just said, it is very convincing, especially since you're coming from this director. Very, like, you obviously have a great insight in the story, which I really respect. And honestly, I think you're better at it than I am. But that said, here's my apologetic for why it's perfectly fine to hate those movies. Story. You got to give the people what they want to a certain degree. I'm not saying give them sugar-coated candy and that's it. But if you're a fan of something, you're a fan of it because of a reason or many reasons. And so then if 35, 40 years later, we're like, we're going to make a movie that's going to be the continuation of the story for which you are a fan, okay? It stands to reason that you might say, okay, I can understand them bringing in a newer cast, a younger cast, having developed the story a little bit past what we would assume. There is one reason I went to go see Star Wars. And I think I don't know if a lot of people agree with me on this or not. There's one reason. I want to see Luke Skywalker kick ass. I want to see Luke Skywalker, prime fucking Jedi Luke Skywalker, go kick ass. That is what I've wanted since I saw Return of the Jedi forever ago. That's all the fanfic. That's the Timothy Zahn series. Motherfuckers, do something with Leia. Do something with something with Han Solo.
Yeah,
do something with Luke.
turn Leia.
You know why I went to see Star Wars? It was not to see your new bullshit fucking story. I want to see Luke Skywalker. And when there's a bait and switch, and you're like, oh, on the first one we killed Han Solo. Well, surely it'll be better on the second one. On the second one, we killed Luke Skywalker. Oh, surely it'll be better on the third one.
Oh, no.
No,
Third one
it's
will
not.
Be better.
It's lying. It's turning your back on the fans, and that's a fucking problem, just in and of itself. Now, if people want to say, "Oh yeah, they're great stories in their own right," blah blah blah. Fine. And does it subvert expectations? You're goddamn right it does. That's like going to a roller coaster ride and there's no roller coaster, and you're like, "Ha ha! See, it's art." What? Ha ha! See, all you people that like roller coasters? Ha 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 ha! You waited hours and hours in line. Ha! There is none. Oh, and it's not for you, it's for the kids. Like, come on.
And there's just a ton of fiction out there that in books that supports and placates to the fans. They decided to ignore all of that, if not completely, just ignore that and make some movies that they felt because it was probably written by committee. It's a Disney movie.
Yeah, exactly.
It is, I mean, having worked at Disney, I definitely understand that, you know, that's just the way it was made. And people, you know, you had a great script in the beginning, maybe it really hit a lot of points, but you put 10 people in a room and start dissecting it and then crowdsourcing, you know, where it needs to go. I watched all of those films as if it was a roller coaster. I didn't know the lore or care about the lore. I enjoyed the Clone Wars. I thought they were pretty good, and kind of it was a tough watch in and of itself. But these last films, I felt like they were. It was excitement. I didn't hate. I mean, I think Luke was underutilized completely. But like as I was watching it, you know, he was always tempted by the dark side. So it was something that he always struggled with his whole life, and the Emperor saw it.
He turns eventually, in like
he turns.
the books and stuff.
Yeah, so he
And then
turns
comes
to the
back.
dark side and then comes back. I mean, so after going through that experience, like, what are your expectations? And maybe that's where they were at with that concept.
Honestly, there is a problem though that I think you mentioned very like briefly, but I think that's the big problem. There isn't a unifying vision for any of this because it's an IP. It's not a story. It's a fandom. It's an IP. It's all of that. That's the thing. Like, if you look at all of the shows that we discussed so far, like Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, they were made by people making a ton of mistakes, doing something that everybody told them was fucking stupid, and they failed. Like, aside from the first Star Wars movie being this massive hit, Star Trek, after the third season, it was done. And people thought it was never going to come back. Star Trek was supposed to be like a like I'm trying to think of a show that nobody like. The Outer Limits. Does anybody remember The Outer Limits?
It was a huge show.
Philip
I think that was a very
K. Dick, is that right?
successful show.
Is that right? Is it?
The Outer Limits is the one that you not adjust your television set
Yeah.
in the next 30 minutes.
The Scary Door.
No, that's Twilight Zone.
Oh, is that? Oh, yeah.
It's not Philip.
Twilight
K. Dick,
Zone.
right?
No. Outer Limits isn't. It was
It's not one author.
No, it's an
I know I've
anthology.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an old show from the 60s. It
Yeah.
came
Yeah,
back in the
brilliant.
90s, I think.
Yeah, there was.
It is a good show. It is genuinely at sometimes better than Star Trek. But Star Trek was supposed to be like that. Like nobody thought Star Trek would come back, and because it made a lot of mistakes, it didn't gather enough attention, and it got cancelled. Doctor Who was cancelled in I think 80 something. It was the seventh Doctor. I don't remember the exact date.
It was a tough watch. Some of the early stuff as well.
Yeah, exactly, because they made a lot of mistakes because they were allowed to experiment. The problem is that, you said it. I'm not going to blame Kathleen Kennedy. I said I'm going to blame Bob Iger. I'm going to blame the whole mainstream system because it actively restricts your creativity. It's telling you, no, this is a thing I hate. I hate this. What I focus group did.
It's a product factory.
Yeah, exactly. If it was up to me, focus group would be a blip in the history of movie making. It would never see the light of day, because I hate when they say, "Oh, focus group did," and like these elements are bad. I'm like, yeah, but
I think that's why Star Trek was bad. The new series. I mean, all of them had that same, and that is why Star Wars, just didn't gel. I think episode 1 through 3, it wasn't workshopped. If that means anything.
No, absolutely.
That was
just George Lucas.
He was. I mean, so I mean, as a filmmaker, I've experienced both sides of these things. I worked as an editor for a long time, and when you have a director who is wearing too many hats, they go in the wrong direction too. So they kind of get up into their own mind of the way everything should be, and you can't control all of it. So I mean, I think there is a yin and a yang of content creation.
I'm going to be a little bit of an apologist here for Lucas. I'm going to say the 1 and 2 and 3 movies were bad. They were really bad. But there is one thing that really annoys me about them, but I have to give him commendation for, is that I remember them. I don't remember The Rise of Skywalker. I remember Richard E. Grant was in The Rise of Skywalker, but that's because I like Richard E. Grant in general. I remember a lot of the 1 and 2 and 3 Star Wars because it is so bad, but it is unified. It's like one person going mad with power, putting as many bad CGI things as he can. Like I remember the 50s diner in the middle of, I think it's the Clone Wars. I remember Ian McGregor going to a literal 50s diner in a sci-fi show, and it is George Lucas's madness. I think if you have to choose between the two devils, choose the tyrant director that does everything himself over Committee, because personally I think Committee will give you sanitized version that you've seen dozen and dozen of times, which is what makes AI so scary to me. Is like it's just going to regurgitate all of the stuff that we've seen back to us. And on the other hand, you have someone who is a massive, like, weird person. Just let them do so, because they're going to make something at least memorable, if bad, but memorable. Jar Jar Binks is a stain on human creativity, but goddammit, I remember him.
Yeah, it's memorable. But it was also it was a different time.
That is true.
So access to science fiction. There's a lot more science fiction today than there was in the early 2000s.
That is true.
By the way,
and to his benefit, for Lucas to go and tell the story of little Annie, little orphan Annie. he's
Can I say something unrelated? I'm sorry. If
Sure.
the Annie movie, the 1981, is directed by John Huston,
Oh,
and I
it's cool.
always, it's so weird. Like the guy who directed the Maltese Falcon,
yeah.
around 40 years later, decided, you know what I want to direct actually? Girls singing "It's a Hard Knock Life."
It was so good. Though. I love that movie as a
I
kid.
love it.
Loved
I love it too.
It was just a brilliant, brilliant film. But I guess I think the answer to what I was saying about Star Trek is, or Star Wars, is Little Orphan Annie. When he's growing up to become a Sith Lord, we knew it was going to be negative. We knew that there was no hope for this guy. He was doomed to become a mass murdering killer. And this was that story. How did you become this big jerk?
The thing is it could work. It could work because it's a tragedy, and we like tragedies. Now, should a Star Wars be a tragedy? I don't know. There should be an uptick, something uplifting, whatever that is. Something heroic about it. Yes. And I think a way that actually occurred is if you watch Clone Wars, the cartoon, they did an extraordinary job making it and Rebels extremely dark, showing Anakin. They did it the right way, as in it fucking made sense. Okay.
But I do think that the movie, the 1982 movie Annie, was in every single way a much darker and more intense film in every single way than the three first movies of Star Wars.
on the chat, Buck Mudd says Jon Favreau was able to sneak in one scene from Mandalorian to give us what we wanted, which was the ending scene of season 2, I think.
It was great.
He also says Jar Jar basically ruined that actor's career. I'd actually like to see what he could do in another role at all.
Yeah, that is the sad thing. Like, this is the thing I never understand. People attack the actors, and I'm like, you do realize, like, do you see the material he was given? Find me an actor who can do that great. Bring in, again, Marlon Brando. Bring in Daniel Day-Lewis as Jar Jar Binks and see if he does it better.
Bugmud says, I love the Maltese Falcon. And Soupy says, Outer Limits memories just unlocked. By the way, I was thinking of Electric Dreams, which I kept on seeing on Prime, Amazon, whatever. And it was all these really good kind of like snippets of sci-fi. And that is Philip K. Dick.
Yeah. That's actually not a bad show. I think it got cancelled, I think.
Probably.
I watched the first season, yeah. That's another problem. Like, these shows come and go before they can find an audience, before they can find a route. And like Inside Job, I watched fairly recently, the animated show, and I learned about it when it got cancelled. Like,
that's when you learned.
I didn't know. Yeah, that's when I learned about it. So when I'm watching it, in the back of my head, I'm gonna be like, okay, don't get invested in these characters because.
Well, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Dude, after Firefly, I was like wounded. And just it's like, come on.
You and a lot of people.
And a lot of people. Like, and there's some people that didn't like it, and we'll talk about them later. Okay. Star Trek Discovery.
Oh, I thought we'd moved on.
No, Ken, we haven't moved on. Here's the deal. I am now watching Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
It's great.
Which I think Star Trek Strange New Worlds is what Discovery maybe tried to do. Because Strange New Worlds is awesome. It's a little bit campy. It is quote unquote woke. It's good. It's good. It's fun. The characters make sense, at least thus far. I'm on like episode 5 or something. Their decisions make sense. They're not just like, oh, bring, the non-cisgendered blah, 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 blah. Leave them on the ship because we want someone else to have screen time. But why? That character's literally made for this. No. They don't do that. like the reason that the number one is her name. She's this tall, beautiful woman, and she kicks ass.
Oh, she's
And
great.
it makes sense, and it makes sense why she kicks ass. It makes
Yeah.
sense. You know, like all of the characters, they're believable in that regard. And that's my problem with the writing on Discovery. It's not believable. There's a point where I'm like, hey, redhead chick, you are funny, but
Mhm.
why are you in a Star Trek?
Yeah.
Like, hey, this
It's
is
like
really cool, guys.
Barclay.
It's like, what are you fucking talking about? But Barclay's awesome.
Female
You can
Barclay.
deal with Barclay. Barclay
but
exists
she's like
in
a-
the universe.
She's like a female Barclay that's like you don't care about.
She's like a female Barclay from 1998. And you're like,
Yeah,
what the
yeah.
fuck are you here for?
Yeah. What
The
story
thing
are
is
you
that
telling?
Red Letter Media, I think, when they were talking about Discovery, said that, and I love that thing. They called Discovery the show of executive producers because it has like 21 executive producers.
Really?
Yeah, like
Oh.
opening. Yeah, it has a lot of executive producers,
Mm.
and that's the thing about Discovery. Discovery, I watched the first 3 seasons, and then I was like, I don't think I can do this. Especially after Picard came out, I watched the first season. After that, I was like, nope, no more Star Trek.
I love
At least
Picard.
for-
I love Picard.
I didn't. I
know,
didn't.
I know. I
It
know.
was a tough-
Continue.
I actually didn't like it because of how cynical it was. Like that specifically.
Incredibly.
I like that
Yeah.
part. I mean, I think they phoned it in at the end is all. Like,
No. I have again, we're using the word apologetic a lot, but I love it. I
mhm.
have a comeback for Picard, but Ali, I've been talking a lot.
Yeah, no, I
Tell us-
interrupted you.
Tell us
Oh
your
no. Here's the thing. Like I watched Discovery, and at a certain point, I think it like clicked in my head. I was like, oh, I'm sorry for saying it like this. There isn't a nice way of saying it. This is all of the dumb Reddit posts I've read about like TNG and TOS. This is all of them. And at that point, it kind of clicked for me that, they're just, they're not interested in telling a story. They're interested in like telling us we were wrong. They want to see, oh, look at it from this way, which is not a bad thing. Sometimes it can create amazing thing. Again, one of my favorite genres of all time is spaghetti western, and spaghetti western came from looking at westerns and thinking, oh my god, these are so dumb. John Wayne is a dumb character because this character is unrealistic. Suddenly you have Clint Eastwood, who is the antithesis to John Wayne. John Wayne never kills for selfishness. Clint Eastwood always kills for selfishness. So it can create incredible stuff. But here's the thing. It came from a place of love. Like Sergio Leone loved westerns. When John Ford died, Sergio Leone stopped production on My Name Is Nobody, he was a I think producer on Tony Novelleri directed that. So he loved westerns. I don't think the people who are writing Star Trek or people who are writing Star Wars, they don't particularly like it, but they're told you should like it.
What makes money?
Yeah, because it makes money. J.J. Abrams is one of those people who I gladly will punch in the face alongside Zack Snyder and Michael Bay. The axis of evil.
Yeah, no, exactly. You say it all right there. I'll sign on that one. An agreement. Oh my god.
J.J. Abrams single-handedly ruined Star Trek, ruined Star Wars, and ruined Steven Spielberg.
Mm-hmm.
That's not easy. That takes dedication. But all of it comes from misunderstanding. One of the things I kind of hate, but I think it's very telling, is how Zack Snyder talks about Watchmen. I don't know if you've seen the interviews.
Oh yeah.
He said
I've not
that
seen the interview.
Watchmen is a fantastic comic. Like it's been overused to the point of death, but it is a fantastic comic. But Zack Snyder, when talking about it, he says that, I thought this was such a cool comic. It had cursing in it. It had people killing each other. And I'm like, okay, is that all you got out of Watchmen?
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, if you got all of that out of Watchmen, I understand how you made the Watchmen movie the way you
Yeah.
did. Because it has a lot of cursing, a lot of blood, a lot of violence, and a lot of boobs. Great.
Hey, there's no
No, it's not a problem. Here's the thing. Even the like boobiest movies of all time usually
got a lot of
have
swinging
some-
dicks too, but you know.
Oh yeah, true. Yes. Honestly, I forgot about that. It had a lot of swinging. I mean, there are a lot of movies that have that, but they all want to, like, here's the thing that I don't understand. What are you trying to say? In particular, J.J. Abrams, what did you try to say with your Star Trek movie? What did you try to say with Man of Steel, Zack Snyder? I mean, Michael Bay doesn't know how to talk. Like, if he did, he wouldn't make movies like that. But I hate him, sorry. If I hate one person, particularly it's Michael Bay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Mud said hashtag lens flare. That's what he's
Oh
trying
yeah.
to say.
yeah.
Way to ruin like something that had so much potential. That was so anticipated,
Yeah.
and then just keep doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I remember that Spielberg did it in Jurassic Park. It was like, oh my God, what a cool idea. Use lens flare. And then you see it in Star Trek Into Darkness, and it's like, oh my God, just let it. Don't you know how to focus your camera properly?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that effect, not only like they were like, oh, this is a cool effect, but I think that goes to a point that you made early on. I'm not sure if we were streaming at that point in time or not. It's dust. So that lens flare is added dust. It is whatever those. I guess when you're on a big production, you do those ion filters to give depth, to make the it's kind of like putting Vaseline on your lens or something like that.
Exactly. I understand that. Here's the thing. I think J.J. Abrams desperately wants to have a style, and yet he doesn't.
Yeah,
Like,
but he can't.
so yeah, because to have a style, you need to be able to take risks. And J.J. Abrams is one of the biggest cowards I've seen when it comes to storytelling and directing. Genuinely, I think both him and Zack Snyder, they appear as having style, but they're just taking the easiest way. For Zack Snyder, it's slow motion. For Michael Bay's explosions, and for J.J. Abrams is lens flare. They're like, okay, this is my element. I'm going to use it as much as I can. And it's a reductive view of style. Like, I think it's like telling, oh, Sergio Leone's style is just zooms. And it's like, no, he had a style in writing, in directing, in Zoom, in editing, in music. A style isn't one single thing that you use. Which is the difference between a person like J.J. Abrams, who desperately wants to have a style but cannot have it, and James Gunn, who has a style. He knows how to have a style, with his choice of music, with his choice of shot composition, with his storytelling, with his dialogues, even with the way he directs his actors. He has a style, and like J.J. Abrams doesn't have it. And J.J. Abrams, to me at least, is everything that's wrong. People who I'm sorry, I don't know him personally. I don't want to come off as an asshole here, but to me, I've seen a lot of people like J.J. Abrams in university, people who particularly don't like movies, but they like the business of movie making. I don't know if that makes sense.
Idea. That's an interesting idea.
Like, here's the thing about I'm gonna make a comparison. I think that's the best way of explaining it. Steven Spielberg and J.J. Abrams, like J.J. Abrams is literally trying to be Spielberg. Like, he really wants to be Spielberg. But Steven Spielberg seems to really love movies. Like, he loves movies. I don't think J.J. Abrams likes movies, because when you love movies, you love them flaws and all.
Mm-hmm.
You love them because of the mistakes they make, because of how sometimes they can be stupid. You embrace them. That's why Indiana Jones is the way it is. It's filled with a lot of old adventure movies from like old Hollywood. That's why Jaws is basically a B movie. Like Jaws it's basically a 1950s horror B movie, but made in 1970s. Because he knows that the way you film a movie, nobody cares about the fish puppet. Nobody's going to say, that's a puppet. They didn't use a real shark. There are people who say that, but it's like, okay, who cares? Is the movie good? Yeah. You like it with the flaws.
We liked
Exactly.
the puppets and Star Wars. We liked those.
Exactly.
Puppets. We didn't like the CGI.
Exactly. Like like the horses in the Rise of they were horses in Rise of Skywalker. Am I correct, right?
Sure.
I don't know.
I don't know about Rise of Skywalker. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I
like they were so obviously CGI. Like they touched them up so much, and I was like, I don't think J.J. Abrams likes movies because he doesn't like them to have flaws, and flaws are what makes movies special. Like, if most directors, I'm sure you've heard it. If you know a director, you've heard it. They think of movies as their babies. Like, oh, I literally gave birth to a baby.
Sure.
And yeah, ask any parents, they'll tell you their babies aren't perfect. They have flaws.
Oh, absolutely.
As they grow older, they get more flaws.
I mean, as a filmmaker, you kind of probably embrace some flaws. If there is an accident that happens on set that wasn't intended, it sometimes, they call them happy accidents or whatever. You get a performance or something that is so much greater than what's written on the page. But that's not the way they make. That's not the way they make movies. They make these movies without flaws. It's like one shot. It's just like a single shot from beginning to end. And you I call it frame fucking. You frame fuck them.
Yeah.
And it's tedious, and a lot of people get paid to.
You're about to go into post production, Ali. In the event you need an editor, I know Couchfire Media might just do it.
I mean, to be honest, it's a 1.5 terabytes of file. I can't it anyway.
We transfer, baby.
Yeah, 1.5 terabytes. It would take a long time to upload to the internet.
Probably,
I used to do for when I worked for Disney, we India did all our animation. So we had to send.
I'll be right back. Continue.
I worked on Disney's first Red production. The Red camera.
Yeah.
It's like a fancy, expensive camera. Anyway,
I know. The dream of every director of photography.
So this was like probably 2007, 2006 maybe, and we were sending these files to India via the internet, and my job was to take the edit and send as little of the file as possible, so we didn't have to send everything because it took so long to get it there and back. So it was streamlining that media to where it could be sent back and forth.
That's very interesting. Those are the little stuff that you don't really think about it when you're watching a movie, but when you're like on the other side of it, it's everything you constantly think about.
Yeah, like how do you facilitate each?
Yeah, exactly. Like one of the things I never thought about before the production of the movie, but then I found myself thinking about constantly is, okay, how long does it take to transfer the files so I can send the equipment rental person home sooner so I don't have to pay him as much?
Oh yeah, no,
because
I feel
for
that.
each overtime you have to pay them. And yeah, my movie got massively over budget because of miscalculation. We had 4 days of shooting turned into 5 days, and I'm sure for each added day everything just got out of control. It
Sure.
snowed for 4 days, and yeah,
Wow.
it's
that'll
which
miss you.
honestly, it really did help my movie. Like
Oh, did it?
my
It helped?
movie, yeah, because my movie had a colder feel to it. I wanted a very cold
Sure.
feeling,
Sure.
so it obviously snow really like dimmed. We didn't have the problem of we need to shoot from like 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. No, because it was
Sure.
snowing all day, so it was like whenever you shot, it's whenever.
Yeah. So it was consistent from morning to
Yeah.
evening. That is
Exactly.
that's really wonderful to have that kind of
Yeah.
consistency and control. I love cloudy days. They're my favorite day. I don't want to see any
Honestly.
sun, no rain, nothing.
Exactly.
I don't want it to change at all.
Exactly.
My biggest
Cloudy days
issue,
are great.
yeah, there's the best day, cloudy, just dreary, cloudy. Let more clouds, the better. Just no rain.
Yeah.
It is raining right
That
now.
sounds like a good and exposing for snow. I haven't shot in snow in a long time, but I remember shooting in snow a long time ago, and getting the exposure correctly was always a difficult thing because it's so bright. But I
Yeah.
think the sun was out, and you get so much more latitude, and it really lucked out that you got some snow.
Yeah.
And it was cloudy. What a beautiful! I hope to see your film.
Thank you.
that you
I
made.
hope it's if it ever gets to a point where I'm happy to share it with other people, I will definitely
Sure.
send you a link.
Now, do you have any of your films? Are there links to any of your films that we could see? I know
There
that you do
are,
podcasts and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
um,
Okay. I do have a few movies. They're student films. Like they're not the
Yeah.
best, and the biggest problem is they're in Persian. Like all of them in Persian, and they're very dialogue based. So
oh, good.
that's the biggest problem.
It does
I
not
have to.
like
have
YouTube
to
would translate
subtitle.
that stuff, right? Yeah.
No, I have to put the subtitles
have
on,
to.
and they
You have
can
to do it.
translate
Yeah.
it. Yeah. I have to just do it. It's one of those things that is like I have to sit down one day and just do it, but I haven't done it yet.
I don't know if it's a thing. I would assume it is, but if you're using Adobe Premiere, it probably has a Farsi setting for captions, for generated
Oh
captions.
yeah. It does.
I mean, it would be wrong
Uh,
a lot, but it can give you a basis.
on the generating, you mean?
Yeah.
I thought you meant for me writing it myself.
No, that's
I-
exactly what I mean. As in, like,
Oh, no.
it'll just do it.
Oh yeah.
it'll generate
It
text.
will
potentially.
do that. I
Yeah.
think. I don't know. I have to honestly test. To be honest, all of my student films actually, especially this, including this one that I made, I've done the rough editing for all of them.
Mm.
And I just want to say something. It's an editing joke that I think only editors will get. For the first time I ever edited was the movie, one of my first movie ever was Off with the Zen. That was the name. It was about Hammer horror films. I played a trans Fisher. I shaved my beard fully for it. So if you want to see this without beard, you have to see that. It's on YouTube, I think. It
Oh
is.
yeah, absolutely. I would love to see it.
I will.
Is it on your YouTube channel? The AK88.
Well, if you go to AK88 Studios page and scroll down, there is a channel
Where
called
it's-
Ali Khamseh.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
Now, you were born in 1988, right?
No. I was born in 1997.
97. I see. So where's the 88?
Okay,
Oh wow.
I have to explain that. Iranian Persian calendar is different from Gregorian calendar
Sure.
in the sense that we are right now in the year 1403.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, literally it's been like 17 days since we've been into the year 1403, and I made my email back in 1388, which was
I see.
2009.
I see.
And I was like, okay, A Khamseh is taken. What else you do? You add a number. Instead of adding 97, which is the year I was born, 75, which is the Persian year I was born, I was like, oh, I put the current date and I put 88.
Yeah.
And then that kind of became a calling card because I still use that email, and I was like, okay, I want to remember all of my stuff, so I'm gonna put Ali Khamseh 88 everywhere.
Yeah.
So
No, that's great. In Chinese numerology, 8 is a very lucky number. So you have like, all the phone numbers. They want as many 8s in their phone numbers as possible.
that's
Just
That's
as an
interesting.
anecdote. Yeah. So
Yeah,
you have a
no,
very
that's
lucky
interesting.
title, is what I'm saying.
I think in Middle Eastern countries, I know a lot of them 7 is the lucky number.
7.
Yeah.
Just historically wise, why is 1403? When did it start? I guess Persia's really old, and it's
Okay,
older than 1403.
Oh yeah. But here's the thing. Iran is an Islamic country. It's a Shia Islamic country. Actually, the way we use our calendar, like Iranian calendar specifically, isn't even the same thing that Arabic countries use. Like Saudi Arabia or United Emirates, like our neighboring countries, they use a different system. I think only Iran, Afghanistan, and Tajikistan use the Iranian calendar. I'm not sure again. Do not take me on that. I know we use it. It's to do with it's Islamic thing. If I were to, I have to guess very correct. I do not remember. I've learned all
of Islam, actually.
No, it is not, because it's okay. Here's the thing. There are 2 big events in the mythology of Islam. That one of them is when Prophet went from Mecca to Medina, and one when he went from Medina to Mecca, I think.
Okay.
One of them is the basis for the Arabic calendar, which is called Hijri Qamari, which is like the moon travel, if I were to translate roughly translated. The other one, I think it's from Medina to Mecca. I think that's the one that we use. Is the basis for our calendar. I think that's the year, 402 years ago, the Prophet went from Medina to Mecca, and the other calendar is actually a few years older. Yeah, but Iran is actually a very interesting country in that regard when it comes to like nationality and myth and history, because it's both a very Islamic country. It has very deep roots in Islam, but at the same time, it has a very deep roots in ancient history, like very old,
way back.
Post-Sumerian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, here's the thing: the New Year in Iran is March 20th. It's the start of spring for us. It's called Nowruz, which literally means new day. And the interesting thing about it is it has nothing to do with the Islamic thing I just mentioned. Like, it's an old tradition going back like 2000 and something years ago, that old kings used to celebrate the renewal of the year. Like, it's Nowruz, means the start of spring and all of that. And so we kept that and then implied it to a very religious thing. I think kind of like Christmas, like if it's the winter solstice, then it becomes Christmas. It's sort of like that. So it's kind of interesting to me. It's a happy accident. I have 88 there. A lot of people, oddly enough, I don't know why, think AK-88 is a gun, because AK-47 is a gun.
Magnum. I mean, I didn't know.
Yeah, it sounds like...
Or like
it's
a film type thing. Or, interesting.
No, AK-47 is a gun, but AK-88 I don't think is a gun.
It's an AK-88. Shoots through schools. Right. So that's a quote.
Just the thing though. That's a toy gun, by the way, that I used for my movie. It's in the background. And like, here's the thing that I kind of loved about it. It used to be very shiny. I don't know how realistic it looks. We had to sand all of it down to make it dull and look more realistic.
Sure. Now you say that is a gun back there? I didn't know.
Oh, no, it's a toy gun.
It's a toy gun.
But it's funny. Where Bill lives, he tried to buy a gun, toy gun, and he lives in Los Angeles.
Oh,
And he couldn't.
Yeah, well, you can't ship them. Amazon won't ship them.
oh,
Like over here.
Couldn't
Right.
buy
So
it till again.
I wanted to ask you about
eBay.
Star Trek. Just no, I'm kidding. I wanted to ask you
Yeah,
about
let's finish.
funding.
oh yeah, funding.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the. I have to. I'm sorry, this is gonna get very boring for a second.
Fine.
The Iranian system, Iranian media system, is not privatized. It is a government entity, and so any big movies have to have a little bit of funding from the government, because otherwise you just don't have that big of a fan base, you don't have that big of a profit margin to actually create a privatized sector. And in any case, even if you are an independent filmmaker, you have to get a showing permit from the government to actually show your movie in cinemas. So there are usually 2 or 3 ways you can get funding. First off is you go to a government entity and tell them, I have an idea, give me money to make it. That usually means you have to comply with a lot of restrictions, with a lot of, well, it's a government entity, you know how it goes.
Right.
And it's an incredibly autocratic government entity as well. So you have to kind of well know where it goes. Then the other one is independent producers. They're not really independent, but they work as a middleman between private, semi-private institutions and filmmakers. For example, banks. Like some banks fund some movies. They get and sponsorships like that. Like it's the same as sponsorship deals, but instead the bank just like pays for the whole movie instead of a small thing. And a lot of TV shows as well. There is a very famous show in Iran which was fully funded for one season with one mall. Like they were making this big mall and they funded the whole season of this show. And that meant the main character was working for them and they were always present in, like, they were constantly talking about it.
Right.
That's the second way, which is private, semi-private institutions. That usually has less restrictions, but even then, if you want to show your movie anywhere within the country legally, you have to have a showing permit, which means dealing with the Ministry of Culture, which isn't a good thing, especially right now. Right now, we have our equivalent of, I don't know, imagine if Andrew Tate was president. That is our president.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So, the third option, which is the option I used, was self-funding. You basically put your own money, which is the dumbest option. Do not do this.
Yeah,
and
if you ask the guys who do Drome, or what is it, Mel Brooks?
No, it's Trauma is
no, not
Lloyd...
Drome. Mel Brooks said Lloyd Kaufman.
Lloyd Kaufman, yeah.
But I was gonna quote Lloyd Kaufman, and Mel Brooks said, "Don't put your own money into your own film." That's
yeah. That's literally the plot of producers. Like they don't put their own money in.
You don't put your own money into your own film. So
yeah, because honestly, this is more of a passion project at this point. I mean, it always was. But I had to self-fund it because I didn't have any connections to use. I didn't have any government connections or private connections to use. So I basically had to ask family members. I asked a family member. I would work for him for 2 years if he advances the money to me, and like we made deals like that for me to be able to make the movie. And that's the thing about my team that I had, and it's a great team. They all you have to basically, these movies are made with connections. Like my first assistant director, which was great, she did an amazing, I genuinely would have been able to make the movie without her. I'm serious. When she made her movie, I was second AD to her, And for example, my production manager, when he made his movie, I was a director consultant to him. Like we kind of basically this is the way student films are made too, and it's just that on a much bigger scale.
But you created the scene. You made the groups of people, and that's you can't make a film or a good film. You're not. It's hard to make a good film by yourself. You need a team.
Exactly. Like there are people, especially like younger people that say, "Oh, I can do everything," and I'm like, "Yeah, you can." Nobody says it's not a challenge. You can do it all by yourself. It's just that it's not going to be as good. Like I know how to work a camera. I know how to hold the camera and stabilize it and focus it. But I don't know how to exposure it properly. I don't know how to light it properly. I know how to use a microphone. I showed you myself, but I don't know how to edit audio properly, which, you know, if you watch my videos, they're horribly edited.
Yeah, the levels are kind of like here and there, but it's interesting content. And I think that goes a long way to content creation. If you are creating something that is compelling and your story is interesting, that, you know, and you're saying something, you know, that definitely goes a long way. It does help to have production value and money and stuff like that. But I've been telling Bill over and over again, you know, he's like, I don't have a fancy camera. I'm like, well, you got an iPhone.
Yeah.
That's what else do you need? You just need to make it. And if you can move one person, you know, that one person might be an investor in your next film. If you can convince your friends to help you make the movie, that is so important. I did want to ask you about, is there an independent film scene at all? Do you show the movies anywhere, or do you have to go through you know, government? Well, I guess you can show it at home with your friends or something.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the thing. There isn't an independent scene in the sense that if you want to sell tickets and get money from it, you can do it illegally. Like, nobody can stop you there. It's a crime. Well,
it's a crime. I mean, the goal is to not go do any
if you want
crime.
to do it legally, no, you
a
can't.
legal thing.
You can't.
Yeah. So there are no film festivals that the government or something has set up that you can submit to?
There are film festivals. There are short movie festivals. There are long movie festivals. But the thing is that some of them also have their own draconian laws for which they have to comply with the government after all.
Sure.
And I mean, whenever the movie is done, I'm gonna send it to everything that I can.
Sure.
I'm gonna, if they don't accept it, I don't care. I will send it next year again. I'm no, accept it. Maybe this year the person in charge is a little bit kinder. It's like, okay, you broke some rules, but we're gonna let you slide. Sure. But like, there isn't any way to make art in Iran and want to show it legally and not have to brush shoulders with the government.
Sure.
A lot of people have tried. There are many directors, many great directors like Nasser Tagwai, who haven't made a movie in like 2 decades because they don't want to brush shoulders with the government, and they're not willing to compromise. And there are some who do, like, they want to compromise but not too much, and they get destroyed. My movie cost around, I'm not going to say the exact number, but there is let's imagine it's cost 100 units.
Sure.
There is a director in Iran, sadly passed away by not good ways last year, called Kiyumars Pur Ahmad. He made one of my favorite movies of all time, which is called Khaharan Qarib, which is like that Lindsay Lohan movie, you know, 2 girls separated at birth, 2 twins.
the twins movie. It was
Yeah.
the what were they called? It was a remake of a Disney film.
Yeah, exactly. It was it's like
twin.
that. The twin girl who were separated at birth because the parents
Sure.
have divorced, and then they saw each other, and well, hijinks ensue. It's actually a great movie, but his last movie cost around 15 units.
15 what?
Like, I said, if my short, independent, self finance movie cost 100, his
cost 15.
15.
So it's a less expensive.
Yeah, but his was a major production.
Yeah, it's compelling.
Yeah, but here's the
you
thing.
spent a lot of money, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I spent more than I thought I ever would, and that is horrifying to me, because we live in an inflation. Like literally,
filmmaking is expensive.
Yeah, here's the thing. If I were to make that movie that I made last month, right now, it's gonna cost another 100.
Yeah.
Like literally, that's how. Yeah. Because of inflation, because, well, you know, I live in the Middle East. Yeah, I live in the Middle East. It's perpetual conflict zone.
Yeah, no, it's it's powerful. I met a documentary filmmaker a number of years ago, and he made a film. He was Palestinian, and he made a film called Five Broken Cameras. I think it won, or it was nominated for it was nominated for an Oscar or something like that. And you know, it's like, it's not easy to make a film, certainly right now. You know, films out of Gaza, you know, as soon as you turn the camera, you get blown up. And this is 15 years ago. So or no, 2012 is when it came out, and it's really a testament. I mean, you're clearly not. I'm hoping you're not in an active war area where there's violence and stuff going on. But
give it a minute.
But telling stories is such a vital part of the human condition, as we are as people, and you know, your ability to express yourself is so incredibly important. I guess it won Sundance, or it was a big film in Sundance, and you know, it's stuff like this, like what you're doing and as a filmmaker is so important, because you know, we don't get exposure, and I'm totally stoked to see your YouTube channel and to see that you're creating content, and I've watched some of your videos and some of your thoughts about different things that have happened in recent time, and it's, first off, I just want to see, it's so brave. You know, you're doing, you're saying the right things, and you're doing the right things, and I'm a fan. So I mean, by far, you know, if you can keep it going, that's part of the reason why I'm definitely, you know, interested in seeing what you've put together. It's like new content. This is exciting.
Thank you.
So,
I genuinely, I mean, to be honest, I'm a little bit excited because all of the shots I've taken are so fucking beautiful. They're exactly what I had in mind. I'm like, I just can't wait to see it all put together.
Yeah. And so you said you shot 6K. Can you play that on your computer? I mean, I saw your setup. Is it playback?
I mean, I can't edit it on the computer, but it does show it. It like the fan goes crazy, and it's like, oh my god, like, what are you doing?
Right,
but it does show it. It's actually not that bad. I'm not gonna like product placement or anything, but my laptop is actually not half bad for what I wanted to do.
That's
and
great.
I put these poor things through their paces. Like I think my laptop hasn't been shut down for like a month now. It's always been on.
Did you have any
Oh,
more
no,
questions, Bill? I was going to change the topic. I didn't want to change the topic without.
Well, what I wanted to ask was, so did you rent the equipment or did you buy it?
I rented it. Honestly, buying it and maintaining the equipment. This is another advice I have for young directors. Always rent. Yeah, you may feel like I am glad I bought some stuff. Yeah, I'm glad I bought a audio recorder, but if I want a better audio recorder for my movie, I'm not gonna buy it. Always rent, because you will pay a lot. I'm not gonna say it's not nothing, but at the same time, you don't have to maintain them. That's somebody else's job.
Right.
Yeah. And you get a lens package, you get sound equipment, you get all of it. I mean, it can be hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you rent it for hundreds of dollars instead. Hundreds of units instead of hundreds of thousands. So
yeah, exactly.
Makes a difference.
The only thing I feel like you shouldn't rent, and I'm talking from personal experience, is consumables, because movie rental places usually just like white or black, like tape or white or black cloth or like cardboard or stuff like that. Just buy it and keep it and use it on your next movie. They usually, aside from tape, they usually remain
one and done with that tape. I mean, you might be able to use it twice, but
the tape is gone. But like cloth and cardboard or cardstock, like black cardstock, they use it to bounce light, block light, and all of that. Just buy there. That's the only thing that you will save money on. There are places who rent that stuff, but it's really not worth it, especially since if you damage them, well, if you do, it's cardstock. How am I not going to damage it?
So Bugmud had a question for you. Are you able to make films in English without restriction, or are there requirements for how people are portrayed?
If you mean officially, yes, there are requirements. Like there are more requirements than you might think. Here's a thing I remember when I was getting my bachelor's degree. One year, I decided to read the official guide from the Ministry of Culture for TV productions. This isn't movies, this is TV. TV is usually more restricted because it reaches a wider audience. And like it's written in it, no close-up of a woman's lips, fingernails, or eyes and nose.
What?
Like no extreme close-ups. You can't have that. Yeah, that is very illegal if you're a woman and you're on TV.
Yeah. Okay.
No physical touch between male and female at all. Like not even close. Like in movies, you can like a woman can hold a man's collar and like shake them. But in TV, they can't do that.
Sure.
Funnily enough, if you make a movie and it gets played on TV, you can do that. But if you're making a TV project, you can't do that.
Oh, interesting. You get grandfathered in.
Yeah, exactly. So there are absolutely restrictions on what you can show and what you can say. There are directors and there are creative people with enough clout that they can kind of circumvent that. Like they make big productions and they're like, oh, for you, we will turn a blind eye. For example, you probably, one of the funniest, this is a little bit dystopian, but sadly true. Earliest TV show in post-revolution Iran is called Sarbedaran, which is a historical tale about a group of people during the Mongolian invasion in Iran. And the show had a villain who was a woman, and the actress was wearing a wig, but it looked like real hair. And unless you don't know, in Iran, they kill you if you show hair and you're a woman. and I hope I was kidding or I was being hyperbolic, but no, they will kill you. And so it was the early days of revolution. There weren't any set rules, and the Ministry of Culture said, no, you can't do that. The director of the TV show, Muhammad Ali Najafi, went to the supreme leader, which at the time was Khomeini, the Ayatollah. Khomeini said, is the woman a villain? He said, yes. He said, is it her real hair? Najafi said, no, it's a wig. Khomeini said, yeah, it's okay. And because of that, that one show, that's the only show that can do that, by the way. That's the only show who was allowed to do that. It didn't set a precedent. It just made an exception.
Sure.
Now,
and that content, you actually go into depth on some of your stuff. Is it okay for you to do that stuff on your YouTube channel and stuff like that? To talk about?
I mean, as long as I remain fairly anonymous, which I am, I'm not a big, I don't create headlines. I'm probably okay, but it's not without its dangers, honestly.
Sure.
I'm a little bit dumb, and I lack self-preservation.
well, it's a question. So if, because I haven't seen these videos on your channel, but like if you have an actor or an actress in this regard, it seems like it'd be very dangerous for that person to be like, oh yeah, I'll definitely do this scene.
Yeah, it seems like most of the films I've seen, it's mostly men in your movies. Is that correct?
Yeah. In my movies specifically, because they're like the videos on my channel, they're like personal stuff, and
Yeah.
that's okay. But movies that I've made, student films, well, they had to go through uni, and they have their own restrictions that they have to keep. But here's the thing. Technically speaking, I shouldn't be able to use YouTube because the internet here is restricted. Without a VPN, I cannot access certain sites. I can't access YouTube, Twitter, Instagram.
Sure.
On a rainy day, Discord, I can't even access that.
Wow.
And technically speaking, having a VPN is illegal. You cannot have one. But it's one of those, how are you going to enforce that?
There's a lot of people with the internet.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the piracy law. How are you going to enforce that?
Sure.
So I have a couple questions delving into this, and if any of them are stuff you don't want to answer, it's fine. Just be like, hey, yeah, no. What are the types of things that you can't say? Also, why?
Okay, I'm not gonna go that much into detail. I'm sorry about that. The things I can't say, basically, I cannot insult things that are considered holy or.
So it's a religious type thing.
Religious type things I cannot insult. Certain characters, certain people, real life people, you cannot insult. We have a supreme leader. You cannot really say anything against the government unless it is from an approved list of stuff that you can say against the government.
I see.
But why? I mean, that is more philosophical, honestly, because why does an autocrat does what an autocrat does? Why does a dictator become a dictator? It's like asking why in Footloose. Why did John Lithgow white stop dancing?
That was yeah. Bill lived in China for a while. So I mean,
But you didn't get. I don't.
And I lived in Thailand for a while. I lived in Thailand for a while. If I took the money, if I took the money with the king, his face is on it. If I stepped on it or did anything,
they kick your ass. But the thing is, it's different. Like in China, if you say something bad about the government, that's not gonna be a deal unless you're someone, unless you effect change. But then again, you're gonna get jailed, maybe. I mean, in an extreme circumstance, they might do capital punishment, but China, it's not so much. I'm sure there's exceptions to that. When it comes to drugs, they'll kill you. And when it comes to
Yeah, drugs are bad.
women
Drugs
and
are bad.
men and that kind of thing, like you're not going to get shot or have your head chopped off. Like that's not going to happen.
I mean, to
Because
be
they're
honest,
incredibly secular there too, right? Sorry.
here's the thing, like the head thing. I'm just gonna say it's a misconception. Iran doesn't
No,
do
it's a
that.
Chinese. It's a Chinese thing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, in China,
because
in the old
Yeah.
way, they would chop your head off if you
Oh.
were a criminal, and they would strip you naked, chop your head off, and that was considered a dishonorable death in China. This is like turn of the century.
okay.
Yeah,
No,
I
sorry,
wasn't
because
referring to.
here's the weird thing about Iran. I love one of my old professors used to say it, and I love that because it is true. He says Iran is a country, like in middle of ISIS and Taliban, and it's not neither of them.
Right,
Right.
right.
It's impressive.
Well,
Yeah.
it speaks a different
I
language.
have a
different history
quick
and everything.
Oh,
I have a quick cultural question. I told you I wouldn't ask you anything personal about your life, but I used to date this girl in California,
Allegedly.
and she was from Iran, and I met her dad, and he didn't talk to me.
Oh.
He didn't say one word, and then like a week or two later, she ended it. So I didn't get what was going on there. Can you let me understand
yeah. Okay.
that a little bit?
I'm not gonna like talk. I'm saying that there is a chance, from the way I know Iranians, especially I'm guessing because you said California, and
Yeah.
I'm guessing her dad is probably people who, well, basically diaspora who went to California before the revolution, like in literally 1979.
Yeah,
So-
he went.
Oh yeah. So okay, I'm gonna say there is a chance that that is involved, but okay. Here's the thing: Iran is extremely patriarchal. Like I want you to imagine those Southern movies, like Southern American movies, like the dad is, you dishonor me, like that
Mhm.
sort of stuff. You can't do this because think of the family. That is really Iranian. Inside Iran, it's worse, obviously, because the government is always on the side of the abusive parent. But Iranian diaspora, especially those who went during the Shah's regime, are extremely patriarchal. Like you cannot imagine the amount of respect that you have to show your father. It's a cultural thing that is also rooted in both Islamic and old tradition. And because of that, yeah, the father has immense power, which basically the father is a king of the household. And people who are from before revolution, they seem to get stuck in that mindset a lot more, because it is a traumatic experience, your way of life suddenly changing. I'm not saying post-revolution Iran isn't patriarchal. God knows it's worse than it was before, probably. But I'm saying that before revolution, it was also extremely patriarchal, and people stuck to that, like lies to honey. Like, oh, I'm not letting this go. So there is a chance, there is a more than 50% chance that her father is the reason your relationship didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, I presumed that was the case. It's just like, and it was weird to me because I would talk to him, like, oh, yeah, nothing. Like, I've never talked to more of a stone wall in my life. This guy, he was just like, I have to say, I was in LA. I was pretty punk rock. I had hair at the time, but it was in reverse. It was long on top and short on side. So I was like, oh, it was definitely a troublemaker.
So
that's a horror story for old Iranian parents.
Yeah, right.
I'd like to ask about a little bit of history, which I know I could go to Wikipedia and ask, but I would rather hear it from someone who is literally Iranian and lives in Iran, and ostensibly, at least, you love your country and all these things. So I want to hear it from you. the revolution, 1979,
Mhm.
up until now, and that's a lot of time to summarize. But I was under the impression at some point not long ago that Iran was fairly secular.
No,
So it has
that
never
is
been.
that is a
secular.
very wrong impression because it's literally called the Islamic Republic.
I see. So it has been all that way. Now the revolution, what was the revolution for?
Uh, Political freedom. I mean, okay, this is extremely
Oh,
criminally
of course.
Yeah.
limited.
I got a question for you. So gaming in Iran. Do you guys do
yeah.
role playing? Do you do board games? Do you do any
Chess,
kind of
yes.
I mean, we do. It is a niche subject. It's more of an underground thing. It's not too mainstream, but we do have we do board games.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What is that? Roll is that
It's
a board
roll-
game?
Yeah, roll camera. It is not made in Iran. It is imported.
I love
But
that.
they actually make like Iranian made version of famous board games like
Like Monopoly, but it's not Monopoly.
Detective Club. It's literally like the original Detective Club, except the instructions are in Persian.
I see.
And yeah,
You
they're
played-
all localized things too, like Monopoly, but with Iranian names. We call it Iropoly.
Mm,
And there are even Iranian designed and made in Iran games, which is like this. It's called Gendarmerie.
genre.
and-
How do you play it?
Gendarme.
How do you play the game?
This one,
Yeah.
it's there are a bunch of cards, and you have to basically there are suspects, and you get clues, and based on what cards you have in your hand, you try to get as much suspects as you can. I don't know how to explain it without playing it. It's a
Suspects
little
for
bit
what?
tough.
I'm sorry, suspects for what?
But they do.
Basically, they're suspects. You just report on them.
They could be murderers. They could be like
But what
Yes.
they showed their hair in a film, like
You report
what did
Anything. They're just suspects.
did you
that's good.
do they do role playing games? Have you heard of like Dungeons and Dragons?
Oh yeah, I mean to be honest,
have you heard of
especially
Dreadlore?
nowadays. I have not heard of Dreadlore. Sorry, I
Definitely
know
not.
I know why you asked that, but I know.
Do you want a copy of Dreadlore?
I mean,
PDF
Genuinely-
version, baby.
I mean, I do like role playing games, and I do like.
He's like, no.
It's
No.
here-
I genuinely do. Here's the problem: I don't have a lot of friends who play role playing games.
yeah.
So
yeah.
I've read the rule book to Vampire the Masquerade. I
Oh,
can
wow.
play it.
Yeah.
Well,
But
why
I've
don't
never
you?
played it.
Are you able? I'm sorry, Ken. I'm interrupting you, but
go ahead.
I want to ask this real quick. One, I can send you the PDF for the Dreadlore book. That's no problem.
I mean,
Because it's
I would
it's
really
free online
appreciate it.
anyway. The second thing is, I know you're usually using a VPN, but if your connection is good, you could play with us.
I mean, I would
As a guest
love
star
it
or
as
something.
well. The other problem is, I'm sorry about this. My sleeping schedule has to go back to normal.
Oh
at some
yeah,
point.
oh yeah, that whole thing.
Yeah,
Sleep.
it's
I mean, what time is
Well,
it
you
there?
gotta sleep.
It's got to be what 5
4 or
o'clock in the
5?
morning.
it's 4:45.
Oh my goodness.
So wait,
Yeah.
why is your sleeping schedule so wild?
Because I mean, honestly, depression and anxiety. Easy answer.
Well, you're in good company.
I'm getting it tonight. Well, can I ask you about that?
I mean,
What's the anxiety for?
I am a very anxious person in general. I do have GAD, generalized anxiety disorder.
Oh, I see.
And the thing is that in my mind, I see something small, like very small. For example, I wanted to make a video in Novels. This is a real example about a movie called As Faryat Terror. I didn't, of course, I didn't manage to make it. I've written the script. I will probably make it in the coming week, but I didn't do it. Suddenly, that little thing starts spiraling. It's like, oh, you didn't do this? Remember, like back in 2005, you wanted to do that thing, but you didn't? Oh, what are you? Are you a quitter? Are you going to quit all the time? What about this? Do you remember when you were you were writing a novel? What happened to the novel? You still have it on your laptop. Like these little voices start amplifying each other. And suddenly, before you know it, I'm laid on the bed and watching the ceiling, and a YouTube video is playing in the background. Usually, something I don't really have that much interest in, but I just want the noise because I know in silence those voices become louder and louder and louder. So that's the anxiety part. The depression comes and goes with like everything. The depression comes from those anxiety issues just becoming unsolvable in my head. Like there is a point where I'm like, oh, you're stuck. And one of the things I have, which I'm sure it's normal, a lot of people have that. I have a very big fear of death and I'm afraid of being forgotten. Like, you know that thing that people used to say, it's a joke that a lot of people say, like, oh, at the end of it, it doesn't matter, you all die. I'm like, yeah, that is true. That's a good joke. I actually do like that joke. But when I think about it for more than 5 seconds, I start hyperventilating and I have an anxiety attack because I can't imagine not existing. And this is where I'm not a religious person. I am anti-religion, actually. But here's where I kind of envy a little bit the religious people, because I'm like, I wish I could believe what you believe. I know I can't because it doesn't make sense. It's stupid. But you seem to believe it. And that gives you some peace of mind. And I'm envious of you for that specific reason. Not any of the other ones. I don't like to pray to the invisible man in the sky. But
one of go on, please.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I was going to just say that because you believe.
I mean, that's why Dungeons and Dragons is so popular, or fantasy is so popular. We want to believe in magical things, and you know, having that experience. I grew up Catholic, and I was told that I needed to be Catholic. So like I feel it. And I'm in the south of America, the Bible Belt. You know, we had satanic panic. We had, and still do. There culturally are things that you can and can't do. It's I would say pretty liberal compared to the way it used to, for sure. And you know, my speech, I don't feel like I'm limited unless I talk on television or you know, say hateful things to people, or you know, you can't threaten people.
Well, you can.
And oh, absolutely. And people do it all the time. I mean, I've had death threats, so I mean, I get it. And that's just a part of being alive on the internet in America these days. But they're threats. I mean, they're not death like.
You're not actually. I mean, you might, but it's a different thing.
I mean, I want my you know, I did have an experience this week where, you know, there's so many guns in America that just down the street from my house, you know, somebody was shot and killed, probably from a disagreement. So that in and of itself is pretty rampant, you know, just because people have guns and they disagree with their friends and they're like, well, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, they would kill each other if they didn't have guns, they'd have to use knives, and if they didn't have knives, they use hammers.
No, I honestly don't believe that, because there are a lot of times I genuinely, like, I had a disagreement with my friend and I'm like, if I had a gun, I would kill you, because using a knife requires a lot of force. Like, you have to go get a knife, come back. It might not kill them, but the gun is like bang. So I think the gun is a big catalyst there. It's like if it wasn't there, argument would have ended with us not speaking to each other until we
Sure.
die of natural
Yeah.
causes. Or
I mean,
a way-
I'm pretty sure it was alcohol, guns, drugs. Sort of
I
a
mean,
mix.
yeah.
You guys
But
are right. Maybe right.
I am, despite my love of westerns, I am not in favor of. I'm sorry. I know this is. I hope.
No,
it's not
you're
too
you're in good
controversial.
company, save for me.
Oh yeah.
You're good. Say it.
I don't like guns in general. Like even. I don't know. I just don't like them. I've seen them up close, of course.
Yeah.
But usually, to me, guns are weapons of oppression. Like they never have liberation attached to them, even though they've been used in like Like here's the thing: I don't remember it. I wasn't alive then, but Iran and Iraq had a war. It was a
Oh yeah,
Saddam Hussein
it was so long.
attacked Iran.
10 years.
Yeah, 8 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there are a lot of people who probably look at a gun and say it like, oh, this is the reason we didn't lose. And I'm like, I get where you're coming from, but when I see it, I feel like the soldiers who, well, kill their own citizens, I think of them as the tool given to even the most righteous person loses themselves once a year. And I would feel much better if that person didn't have access to something designed to kill another person. Like that's the thing about them. They're literally designed for murder. There isn't any other use for them. Like for the knife, you can cook with it, but you can't cook with it. I mean, you can. It would taste awful.
Yeah, no, you can't cook with a gun.
It's interesting you say this. I wanted to do two things. One, I wanted to read from the chat because it's pertinent. Two, I wanted to read this thing that my lady friend, my girlfriend, sent me that I think might maybe apply. Hopefully, it's not too presumptuous. Okay, so the first thing is the chat. Buck Mud says, I just tripped over 4 guns on the way to the bathroom, and I don't own any guns. America, cuz. He says, I love guns in movies and stories. Big, awesome guns ripping it up. In real life, they're pretty boring. Guns are like lions in that way. Interesting.
I mean, yeah, lions are much. The Lion King lied to us all. The first time I went to a zoo, I was like, "Oh my god, none of them sing. How is it? Why did we get to a point where none of the lions sing? None of them is voiced by Jeremy Irons. That is a mistake."
So this is the thing my girlfriend sent me. It's a quote. It's all uplifting and shit. It's a quote by Christopher Poindexter, apparently. Okay. It's one of the saddest truths I've come to know living on this strange, mystical planet is that it takes a lifetime for a man to realize on any given day, any given hour, any given moment, he has the ability to be whoever he wishes, to do whatever he yearns to do, to find what his eyes beg for, to give himself, arms stretched towards the yellow sun, the life he has always wanted.
I mean, that's true. I don't disagree. There is a problem that when there is too much cloud, you can't see the yellow sun.
That is our YouTube short, and also could be the basis, the kernel of a short film that you do. That's wild, man. But it's dangerous. That's dangerous to do that, too.
I mean,
because you dig into the deep, or you dig into what's around.
Here's the thing. I'm saying this like I think every storyteller, and I mean anyone. I don't mean specifically movie makers. I mean writers, even dads who make up stories for their kid at night. You usually, whether you like it or not, you put something of yourself in it. And it's up to you how deep you want to dig. You can be David Lynch and just dig as deep as you want. You can be Zack Snyder and put latent masked homosexuality in your movies and do not even realize it.
I love it.
So I think like you put something in your art in any way you can. I mean, even in role playing, like you usually, even if you role play as someone opposite of you, you are doing that consciously. Like you're putting, I usually play as charismatic in video games. I usually play as charismatic people who talk their way out of stuff instead of fighting them. Like charisma level 10, strength 1. That's my build. And because I know I can't do it in real life. Like I know that in real life I'm not charismatic enough to be able to deal with everything with words.
I think you're very charismatic.
Thank you.
I think you're really you got a great personality. So
Thank you. I'm charismatic when I talk about movies. That's the thing.
yeah,
When you get to know me in real life, like there are times, I'm not very charismatic, but that's the thing. Like I want to have that feeling of, oh, he's a guy that you can trust and who says the right thing at the right time. But even then, I'm basically doing that because I know I can't do that. So even then, I'm putting something of myself into the story of the game that I'm playing. You know, like if it's a good game like Fallout New Vegas, or if it's a not so good game like Fallout 4.
I
have to be.
Internet.
Oh yeah, but I don't care. Honestly, this is the thing. I played Fallout New Vegas. Fallout New Vegas was the first Fallout I played. One of my friends said, "You like Skyrim? Play Fallout New Vegas." And I played it, and I loved it. Literally, the time I finished, I was done with Fallout New Vegas because you never truly finish it. You're just at some point done. Fallout 4 came out.
No.
Yeah, you just had to. Fallout 4 came out. And going from Fallout New Vegas to Fallout 4, I mean, it's like going from a 5-star bathroom to shitting in the woods. Like, at that point, how can you ever forget that nice cushioned bathroom?
You know, the thing is that
nothing better than a golden toilet.
Ken and I, God, every chance he gets. Ken and I don't play these video games. My friends do. I was introduced to Fallout by my friend Chad. I call him Chad the Beard. You rival Chad the Beard in the beard section. It'd be interesting to see you guys next to each other.
Strong beard.
Strong beard vibes. Chad the Beard, as well as Nigel's. And, you know, I basically sat around and watched them play Fallout. So I was kind of like... I've sucked. Yeah. Well, no, there's no driving involved. It's more like I was the girlfriend. Or in terms of what they say at comic conventions, I was like the dice bag. As in, like, it's the thing you bring along with you to play the game. Like, it doesn't actually do anything. That's who I am. You just sit in the corner and get sad. Yeah, and to say that I girlfriended, I know is offensive, but that's it is a little offensive. It's what's said, and you know, I think it's funny because
it is a gamerism for sure.
I know everyone get prickly about it. So
no, it's prickly. It's just
I'm not saying you are. I'm saying everyone else.
We'll call it a trope.
You're a trope.
Yeah.
I see why you like Fallout 4 New Vegas. It looks like a spaghetti western.
Yeah, Fallout New Vegas, not Fallout 4.
Yeah. Fallout 4 I don't like.
Or the New Vegas looks like a spaghetti western.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like
you throw a little piece of dynamite, and you shoot it.
Yeah,
and they explode.
It takes place in the Mojave Desert.
Yeah,
I mean,
Mojave, please.
Yeah, desert. You're how desert is where you live? Is it pretty desert?
Okay, here's the thing about Iran. It is, oddly enough, has desert climate, temperate climate, and mountainous climate. All of them
mountains for
together. Sure. Tehran is supposed to be mountainous, but it's very close to the desert. I was born in the city of Isfahan. Which is a little bit lower on the map, towards the south. And it's literally in the middle of a desert. like you walk out of the city, there's a desert.
Yeah.
And it used to have a river. It doesn't anymore because water scarcity.
Yeah.
God, it's terrifying. I'm genuinely terrified. Global warming is one of the things that really gives me anxiety when I think about it because I can't do anything about it either. But anyways, I was
You
wondering
can make
if you have
movies about it, and
mean,
maybe
I
get the
can,
word
but
out.
here's the thing. I do believe that, but there's a thing that people have done that so much throughout my life. Like I was born in 1997. When did Al Gore make An Inconvenient Truth? I think 2001.
It was later. Because he had to lose against George Bush in 2000, in the year 2000.
In the year 2000.
It was later. It was probably 2000 something.
Okay. So, like throughout my life, I've seen many people talk about it. Bill Nye literally is putting his career to educate people about it. I'm
Absolutely.
like, okay, if these people can't do it, this beloved, I mean, Al Gore probably not very beloved, but Bill Nye is very beloved. But if they can't do it, can I? And I'm like, it's a defeatist position, but here's the thing, by the time I get to the level that Bill Nye is now, there might not be a planet to save.
You got a little time. It's not us. I mean, maybe you, because you're younger. It's not me. I mean, I was born in the 70s, so. I mean,
to be honest, here's the thing. If they put you and me together, I think people will think I'm older than you.
They might. They might, because I act like I'm not quite 20 yet. So
yeah,
I'll buy that. I'll buy that. I'll buy that. I mean, I got some gray. Look at all that gray right there.
Here's I do too. Like it's not very prominent here, but there are gray hairs in my beard as well. And I do have.
I have less hair than you all around.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's honestly. Here's the thing.
I'm definitely jealous of the hair. Just saying.
I mean, here's the thing. People I've seen, especially with people outside of Iran that I talk about, and well, I've done a few podcasts and I've talked to them. It seems like, at least in my current, nobody is as hairy as me. I'm the hairiest person I know.
So, global warming.
Global warming.
I swear. You say that you lived in what is it called? Ahwesala? What is it?
Esfahan.
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 I have to see it for me to know anything. Esfahan.
Sometimes it's also called Isfahan.
Isfahan.
It's basically whichever you, because the word is Persian, so whichever way you romanicized it, like write it in English. So people write it with I or E.
I see. Is the desert there? Is it sandy? Is it rocky?
Sandy, incredibly sandy.
And there was
two deserts. We have two major deserts in Iran. They're both next to each other. One of them is called Lut. The other one is called Sahara, I think.
What signifies the boundary between them? As in, why are they not just one big desert if they're next to each other?
Genuinely, I don't know. I never thought about it. I was like, two deserts next to each other. That makes sense.
They tried to take camels to the desert in the west. I don't know if they have do they have camels in Iran? Is that a
Yeah, it's actually more southern than the deserts. But there are camels.
So they tried to take camels to the west, but they didn't do well because they have softer feet. Because it's really rocky desert here. So the sandy desert, I would imagine.
Yeah. It is.
That's why you don't see camels in the wild west. I mean, if they had camels and it was a sandy desert, I feel like they probably wouldn't be like. They'd be a little better off, when they're out of water.
Here's the thing about sandy deserts: they are definitely, I think, more dangerous than rocky deserts, especially when it comes to weather. because sandstorms are very typical here. They're not as typical in rocky deserts,
Mm-mm.
which is why in a lot of mommy movies, sandstorms are very prominent.
So speaking of like,
Great movies.
I'm
Yeah.
interested in the. Okay, let's get back to film a little bit because I'm gonna dig into
Yeah.
geography and history and shit. How does the terrain play into your films?
Uh, I mean, that is a very hard question for me to summarize.
That's all I ask. Is hard.
I
questions.
know. Without getting too specific, a lot of directors basically, based on where they are, you can see it in their style. Like there are a lot of directors who are from Esfahan. Esfahan is a more of a cultural city. It has a lot of old architecture. It used to be the capital. It's not anymore. And so it has a lot of old architecture. It's usually perceived, I'm not going to say it is, but it is perceived as a cultural hub in Iran. And so you can see it in the works of the directors who are from there. They're usually more interested, like they're very indoorsy, like they use a lot of interior shots more. That at least it's from my own observation. In contrast to directors who are from the north of Iran, which is a more temperate climate. It has a lot of jungles. It has a lot of like grass, and it looks much greener. They know to appreciate the nature better. I guess that's the way they know how to use a lot of more beautiful shots in terms of like showing the greenery. Then you come south, and when you come south, water starts to play a massive role because the Persian Gulf is there, and like a lot of things tend to mix with water. And again, it's like where they're from, they take a little bit of the area they're from, but in how they work, like for example, the good thing about Iran is if I want to have a movie about mountain climbers, I can make it. If I want to have a movie about cowboys, I can make it. Like there's a desert there. There's a lot of different things you can use. I can't use it if I want to make a movie about a city with good city planning because that doesn't exist in Iran. God damn it.
Not in America either, so don't feel special.
You know, one of the things, like I see a lot of American movies, if it's not obvious. You know that famous New York shot in like Woody Allen's Manhattan and all of that, the famous city skyline that you see, I think from the Brooklyn Bridge. I'm not sure. I might be wrong. I just heard from it. I don't think Iran cannot do that in a way because how it's positioned and made, which is kind of funny because Tehran is on a I'm sorry, I said Iran. I meant Tehran cannot do it. And Tehran is a major city, it's a capital. And the government is a very centrist government. So it's like everything gathers in one place. And so you can't do it, even though the city has natural elevation, like it's on the side of a mountain, but it doesn't have a skyline because it was poorly designed.
Interesting.
It has a dick though in the middle of it. You have one tall tower, which is called the Milad Tower, and it's literally like a giant dick.
Wow. I'm now looking at it right now.
Yeah, no, it's epic. I mean, it's beautiful.
Thank you. I mean, some dicks are beautiful too, but
I mean, I think if you're gonna ask me about penises, they're pretty. You know, it doesn't mean I don't desire them personally, but I mean, I definitely salute. You know, I appreciate mine for sure. So
just where we're.
I think it's beautiful. I mean, you've got you've got this beautiful mountainous area, and there's structure, and it looks like somebody's. I'm watching a drone video that somebody took. I love the artwork, the way that it looks to me. If I could describe it, it looks like a 1960s kaleidoscope, you know, video.
I get what you
a
mean.
lot of it.
Here's the thing about Tehran, though. As much as I genuinely dislike the city and a lot of its aspects, I still prefer it over cities like Dubai, because there is a lot of history in Tehran. It was the capital for 3 different dynasties. You know, the Qajar dynasty, the Pahlavi dynasty, which is, you know, the Shah, and the Islamic Republic. It was a capital for all 3 of them. And there are literally, you go to places and it's like the architecture. This is from the Qajar era. This is 200-year-old buildings. Then you go and this is from the Pahlavi era. This is when Pahlavi was trying to do Soviet. This is from when Pahlavi was trying to do capitalism. This is when Islamic Republic was trying to do other stuff.
Yeah, so it's definitely it seems like there's a lot of tall buildings, like any city. It's definitely spread out. And you know, if I lived there, I'd want to walk up the side of that mountain every single day because I'm addicted to walking up the side of mountains. I just love it.
I mean, I
don't know why.
To be honest, you need a respirator for that.
They're tall. They're tall. Yeah, they're tall looking, and you got snow caps.
I meant more about.
Is it snow capped year round?
And it used to be. It's not.
Yeah,
anymore.
not anymore. Yeah. Okay.
Wait, what were you saying about why do you need a respirator?
Pollution.
It's tall.
It's a
it's pollution.
No. Yeah, it's a very polluted city. There are days
a lot of cars.
A lot of cars, and there are days that they literally close down the schools because of the pollution.
Yeah.
What is the pollution caused by?
Mostly, old infrastructure, cars, the government burning subprimal fuel to generate electricity.
But you get beautiful sunsets. I mean, the more pollution, the prettier the sunset, right?
Honestly, that is true.
Jesus Christ.
That is
toxic fucking optimism. Yeah, but you know, they died on a Sunday though. It's like, go fuck yourself, man. You can't bitch and moan about global warming and be like, well, the pollution's okay. What the fuck?
I mean, we've all seen the Highlander too, right?
Oh, you're just hurting me. You're hurting me. I think even Sean Connery was like, let's not talk about this one. I mean, come on. Come on.
Speaking of, by the way, weird thing, I forgot to say it. This is like 2 hours ago at this point. I hope you remember it. You said Christopher Lee and Hammer movies?
Yeah, is it not?
Yeah. No, Christopher Lee and Hammer Dracula.
Movies. Huh?
Christopher Lee hated being associated with Dracula.
In the end, he liked the first few that he did.
You know, he liked the first one he did. Literally the first one. Then after that, after like 1960 was over, he despised being known as that guy who played Dracula.
Sure.
Like one of the jokes, I don't know if you've seen this behind the scenes footage of Star Wars. I think it's Clone Wars. They put a puppet of Yoda that Christopher Lee has to interact with. Yeah. And they gave him Dracula teeth. Like,
oh no.
Paper Dracula teeth. And he is so mad.
I bet he got
pissed. He was pissed off. He was like, I didn't think you would do that to me, George.
So in the interviews with him that I've seen, I'm sure everybody's seen these, it's on YouTube. That's kind of how, through osmosis, I knew anything about Hammer films. And the idea that they kind of got decadent is because of Christopher Lee's disdain for them. But I was under the impression he enjoyed at least the early ones.
I think, at least from his interviews, he enjoyed the first one, Horror of Dracula,
and then afterwards they kind of got corny. Yeah.
The thing is that he said, I will not, in the interviews, he says that I said I will not do the third movie, which is Brides of the Dracula didn't have Dracula in it. The third one is Dracula, Prince of Darkness. He said, I will not do it. This is a dumb movie. And they said, well, if you don't do it, we have to fire everyone because we can't make it without you. And he was like, well, these are my people. Like,
so I've got to
know them. Yeah. So they basically emotionally blackmail him into making more of these movies. And by the time they went to the Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, he was like, everyone is different. I don't know these people. I'm not going to come. And they made the
Wow.
movie without him anyway. So that means they were
Wow.
lying.
Yeah.
Scummy producers aren't a new thing.
I don't think Bela Lugosi ever disliked.
Yeah, but Bela Lugosi is weird. Like, one of the things in Ed Wood, I love Ed Wood, by the way, the Tim Burton movie. Martin Landau definitely deserved that Oscar. There's a scene that I found so heartbreaking. Is Bela Lugosi is standing in the middle of a pond with an octopus that doesn't have a motor and he has to move it himself. He's drinking some alcoholic beverage and he's like, I said no to Frankenstein. It wasn't sexy enough. And at that point, it's like, oh my God, that poem, I genuinely felt my heart break.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So,
and he's older, and it's just
I wanted to ask you
it's
about.
dangerous, and I think that there's filmmakers absolutely need to be, on top of that. It's your responsibility to respect your actors enough to make sure that every scene is safe. And if you're going to ask them to do something, there's trust there. There's trust there at the very beginning, and so you ask them to do something that's dangerous. It's hurtful on so many levels because they trust you, and you're asking them to do this. And it's kind of like,
here's the thing. I once was talking to a friend about, well, if a movie is bad, why does everyone say, well, the director did it bad? Well, what about the actor, the writer, and everyone? I'm like, because the director has the final say. Usually, if we're not talking about a studio movie, usually the director is the dictator on the scene.
Sure.
And if it's not, you hear these horror stories about like actors and directors having disputes. Like a World War Z, Brad Pitt wouldn't talk to the director.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I wouldn't talk to him either, but I saw the movie. I saw part of the movie.
It's not a good movie, but when that happens, it's like, well, who is Brad Pitt going to listen to then? You have to trust your director. Like, you have to accept that your director knows that you're doing it's not going to make a fool out of you, which is literally what Kubrick did to George C. Scott. He made a fool out of him, but even then it was for the best betterment of the movie.
But that was Kubrick. I mean, because he kind of knew what he needed, and he was brutal. Kubrick was brutal. It was a brutal filmmaker. But I don't think he intended harm. Well, I mean, I guess mental harm, but
I mean, for Shelley Duvall, poor Shelley Duvall in Shining, it was definitely.
It was brutal. He was brutal.
Yeah.
Funny thing is, I did a movie with Peter Fonda. I wanted to loop back to that. I met him and talked to him. We shot it in Arizona in the middle of summertime in the desert. And he was a wild guy. Do you like The Easy Rider? Have you seen that?
I liked Easy Rider a lot.
Yeah, I think that would fall into the world of films that you kind of dug. He was
weirdly enough, I watched Hell's Angels and The Trip before Easy Rider, so I watched them chronologically. Like, these are the movies that led into Easy Rider.
Yeah, and they were all. I mean, filmmaking and it is rebellious in its way, and it's and Ed Wood was rebellious. He was doing things that he shouldn't be able to do. He was making movies, and he got equipment, and he got stuff that for the amount of money that he had, which was nothing. He was doing something, and it's so impressive that the guy walks by the cemetery and he knocks over the headstone. film's expensive. You know,
Yeah,
filmmaking
here's
is
the
expensive.
thing. Here's the thing I actually liked about the Ed Wood tale is that it shows you can't be the worst director of all time. They call Ed Wood the worst director of all time. And still, if you put yourself in your movie, if you do what you want, if you believe in what you're doing and do what you want, you will make something that people will not forget. I've said to my friend more than a couple of
Undeniable.
times
Yeah.
that a boring movie is worse than a bad movie.
We hit that really hard this episode for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, a boring movie is worse than a bad movie.
It is.
No, a
It
bad,
is.
yeah.
And that's why the
This movie
room.
we made.
Have you seen? Have you seen the room?
Yeah. The Room,
Yeah,
Johnny
that's why it was
Wiseau.
successful. Yeah, the whatever.
Wiseau.
It was so.
Maybe so.
Yeah, I mean, he did it himself. But it was certainly interesting.
I actually think the Disaster Artist is a better watch,
I mean,
at least, because you kind
be
of get
honest,
all of it.
I that's the part where I have to disagree with you. I don't dislike the Disaster Artist, but here's the thing:
sure.
the Disaster Artist is made by professional crew.
Sure.
So the Room, half of the charm is why did they shoot it on both video and film?
Yeah.
Why does it look like? Why is there a green screen rooftop? The rooftop is one of the easiest thing you can make. And yeah, the behind the scenes stories is interesting, but to see it, it is not an easy watch, I agree. But that's what makes it memorable. Like if you stick to it, that's the end where he says, you're tearing me apart, Lisa. Like you have the journey of getting it to that. That line is funny in and of its own. But when you have the journey of getting to that line, it hits 100 times harder.
Mm-hmm.
Buckmud says Flash Gordon 1980. Amazingly
great.
bad movie.
Oh, Flash Gordon, undeniable. Undeniable.
I saw Flash Gordon because of Ted, because that made a lot of reference to it.
Ted, as in Ted the movie?
Yeah, Seth MacFarlane's Teddy Bear. And I watched Flash Gordon and I was like, oh my God, I should have watched this so much sooner. It has Brian Blessed. It has Timothy Dalton. It has Max von Sydow playing an incredibly racist character, basically playing Fu Manchu.
Yeah.
And it's so good. It's so stupid. I love it.
We're gonna have to send you. I'm gonna have to send you our cut of Double Brothers Double Trouble. It's a short film, and it is that Ken and I made, and it is literally supposed to be bad. So I would love your opinion.
It's really bad.
I'd love your opinion.
It's supposed to be bad, and it's really bad.
And
that's the best.
It's great.
All achieved there.
It's great because, and when we showed it to people, I don't think they got it. I think they were like,
oh, they didn't.
You know the sound's off, right? You know the audio. It's like they're talking in a Japanese, like old school.
So when they're
dubbed
talking,
movie. And I'm like, right.
So that's fun.
So apparently, I did not hit the mark on that.
Was not bad enough.
I'm a fan of spaghetti westerns. Dubbing is something you have to love when you get into spaghetti westerns, because behind the scenes of those movies is a mess. Like there are German, Spanish, Italian, and American actors, each of them speaking in their own language.
Right.
Nobody, like Sergio Leone, the director of the movie, didn't learn how to speak English until he get to Once Upon a Time in America, his last movie.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That's impressive.
That is awesome.
He didn't learn to speak proper English until then. It's so funny to me.
I've made a couple of films that are have a large amount of different languages in it, and it's interesting because you got to sit next to an interpreter and understand what's going on. The film, the reason I was in Thailand, I made a film and it was in Thailand, and like working with these people, and when they went into the Thai scenes in the film, it's just like, what are they saying? And there's a script, and the script is in Thai,
Yeah.
It was written in English, but then the actors, they would deliver their lines in Thai, and it was really wild. I mean, because everybody speaks English in Thailand, so it doesn't
I
matter.
know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
That's one of the problems with international things, but again, if you do it well enough,
Yeah.
it shouldn't matter. Like spaghetti westerns have horrible dubbing. They're
Oh, it's great.
horrible.
It doesn't matter.
it's-
They look
yeah.
beautiful, though. They look
Yeah,
beautiful.
exactly.
The setting, you put them in that set, and you have them walk around. That set is like millions of dollars. You can't build a set like that. I mean, yeah, they do a lot of like of the westerns. They'll put them on a soundstage, and they'll have that fake background. But that's not the movies we're talking about. That's like John Wayne or something. That's like
Exactly. That's the reason.
that's not what we're talking about. Yeah.
That's why spaghetti westerns were born, because somebody looked at them and said, "Well,
we can do that.
Yeah, we can do that, and we can do it better because we don't need a soundstage."
Do you have a script for do you have a script for a spaghetti western? Are you going to do one?
I have about a dozen ideas for spaghetti westerns. I haven't written them, but I have written treatments of them, like short synopsis of what's going to go on in the movies.
Yeah.
But I haven't written them. But I do have a lot of. I love this. I mean, one of my goals is to make a spaghetti westerns, and the other one is to make a musical, because I love music.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I love it. Do you have favorite bands?
I talked about it briefly.
Or favorite music styles, or is that?
Oh, my favorite singer of all time is Leonard Cohen.
Yeah.
I told you I'm a boomer at heart. So I like his style of music. Like I like Bob Dylan. I like Tom Waits.
Tom Waits is great.
Yeah,
Bob Dylan is phenomenal for sure.
I like David Bowie, and you can imagine 2016 was a rough year for me.
It was a tough year, yeah.
Yeah, both David Bowie and Leonard Cohen died.
Yeah, and Prince.
And Prince, yeah. And literally, like at the final days of 2016, George Michael, Carrie Fisher, and Debbie Reynolds. And Debbie Reynolds, I know Carrie Fisher was the player, and she has. But Debbie Reynolds, her mother, is the star of my favorite ever movie musical, which is Singing in the Rain.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what a beautiful movie! Yeah, that movie is amazing. It's probably one of the. I mean, isn't it one of the ultimate films? It's one of the big ones, right?
Singing in the Rain.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the pinnacle of golden age Hollywood music.
Pinnacle.
Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, it depends on what you want from your musical. A lot of people don't like golden age musicals, and I completely understand them. Especially because if you think It's a Wonderful Life is optimistic,
yeah.
I mean,
yeah, Singing in the Rain is pretty optimistic. But it was
Bill, you're muted.
Oh.
It's okay. Nobody wants to hear me. Thank you, sir. Ken wasn't going to say anything. He's just like, fuck that guy.
I was doing other things. I was playing a clip of Sing in the Rain. I mean, the scene where he dances and sings in the rain is just, dude, that guy like got sick from like,
pneumonia. I think it had pneumonia.
Because of it.
And like, Fred Astaire, he has a scene which I love. It's from, I think, Royal Wedding. It's one of his most famous scenes. He dances on the ceiling.
Yeah.
Which is, one of the earliest examples. They rotated the whole room, which what Nolan did in Inception, and it got very famous for it. And I'm like, yeah, but that's what they did for Fred Astaire back in the 50s. But he does it in a way that it's like, you watch it and it's like, oh my God, he literally woke up that day and said, I'm going to do this, and went and did it perfectly. Because he doesn't even show a little bit of strain, like, oh, I'm hurting. This is hard what I'm doing. And I
They
love him.
won't.
I love the man. He
You
was one
won't.
of the most
You wouldn't.
influential.
You wouldn't.
Yeah.
What I was saying was, as I had unceremoniously muted myself, was that musicals are a little different because they put you in a different mindset.
Mhm.
You know, if I'm
Yeah.
watching a musical, then the sort of suspension of disbelief it's a different line, you know.
I mean, honestly, again, it depends on the musical because there are musicals who are extremely downers. Cabaret, you cannot watch Cabaret and have will to live afterwards. Like literally,
Go on.
No, go ahead.
No one wants to hear me. They want to hear
Yeah,
you.
please.
No,
Yeah, let's hear it.
nobody. The last, like the main song of the Cabaret, which is, well, what good is sitting alone in your room? Come hear the music. It's about how, well, the song is about how Sally Bowles, Liza Minnelli's character, saw her friend die, and she died a happy person, even though she died of booze and pills. And yeah, and it's like the goal of the movie is that start by admitting from cradle to tomb, it isn't that long a stay. And like,
Wow.
it's a very dark musical. And then you have Fiddler on the Roof, which is another dark musical. It ends with them having to leave the home. Like it ends with Anatevka, the song Anatevka, that a little bit of this, a little bit of that. What are we leaving behind?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's a fantastic movie. I love Fiddler on the Roof.
How you know all of these musicals and all of these films? I have to say that your knowledge of film far surpasses anybody your age here in America.
Well,
it does.
I mean, it took a toll. I don't have a social life.
Oh, yeah, what is that? What is that?
Yeah. And like back in the day, I tend to enter everything I see in Letterboxd. I'm one of those people, and write reviews for them. Like last year, I think I watched 70 something movies.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it wasn't. I was disappointed in myself. I was like, when I was 17 years old, I used to watch 73 movies in a month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
now, would you see these in the cinema, or are you seeing them at home, or what? I'm seeing
them at home. Honestly, some of them I like bootlegged and stuff like that. Some of them are legally. I pirated them. Basically, I had to pirate them.
I mean, what is that pirated anymore?
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, there isn't a way for me to get them other than piracy.
Yeah, sure.
Like,
right, exactly. I mean,
yeah. But I watched them all. Like, I had a good chance of watching a few movies on cinema. There were like Cinematics in Tehran who put on, like, we're gonna show you 2001: A Space Odyssey, which I
nice
on cinema.
Oh,
yeah, I love that movie. I watched Once Upon a Time in the West in cinema. I had watched it by then. I just went and managed to finally see it on the big screen. And at that moment, I realized why people say like some movies are made for big screen. If you can, watch westerns on the big screen because they literally need that. A laptop screen isn't going to do them any justice.
True.
This is all very interesting. You seem like a director. Yeah, I play at making movies, but like you're coming at it from a different angle. Really interesting stuff.
I mean, I say it in like introductions of myself. My career and my hobby are movies, and which means I hate my career. I say I hate my hobby and I love my career.
Oh, look, there's Alfred. I mean, if you could see the stream, you would have just seen Alfred. No, I'm talking to Bill.
Oh yeah, did he pop up?
Yeah, Alfred popped up there for a second.
Which Alfred?
Little Hal. No, it's Hal. Hal is our Alfred. In the game that we play for fun on Mondays, when you should be sleeping. I think what we should do is we go early and You know,
mean,
so he can play a game if you have ever any interest.
I'm
And we'll do it.
massively interested. Honestly, I
Yeah,
let's
do.
do it.
let's do an early game. We gotta make up a couple of shows. So
Early game.
let's do an early
game
one
into space.
into space.
Space.
Where we can talk to Hal ourselves and see how that works out.
All right, y'all. Do we want to take a break? Are we good? How are you all feeling? I know it's
What time is it?
extremely late where you are.
5:35, and in about 30 minutes, I think I probably need a little bit of sleep because it's
Yeah.
getting a little bit
Well,
unreasonable.
let's take a short
I
break.
think okay. I think you can
Go on.
see the sun is starting to come up.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we need a break. I think we just kind of wrap it up. I think 30 minutes. I think we've got a great podcast at this point.
Well, I'm gonna go pee. I was being polite to everyone who might need to pee.
I also need to use the facilities, but
All right.
you know, if you want to take a break, let's take a break. All right, we'll take a 5-minute break.
Let's take a 5-minute. We'll be right back.
We'll say 10 minutes, and
yeah, and we'll do like a 20-minute outro. Is that cool?
And we'll do a short outro if that's okay with you. Right, we'll be back. Again. All right, we kicked Bill off. Yeah, good riddance.
Booze.
Had enough of him. Do you have any closing thoughts?
I mean, in general, I just want to, because I'm just trying to say that storytelling is an important thing, and if you have a story that you can tell, just find a way of telling it and make it yours. Like, remember that writing by committee, it produces watchable quality products, but the thing about watchable quality products is nobody probably remembers the billions of other dozen space operas that came in the 70s. Everyone remembers that one weird movie that had a weird religion and was taken inspiration from Japanese movies.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's like AI. If you've seen one AI image, you've kind of seen another AI image, and it's not compelling or gripping. There's a story in there that has been ripped from 100 or maybe 1,000 other stories and dissected and thrown in to being maybe a general, like, I'm gonna call it Play-Doh or clay. It's like a clay, but it's not it. Your story is not getting told necessarily.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm impressed. I think we should set up a game, and we'll do it earlier, and we'll go pretend together about space.
I would love that, because honestly, genuinely, I'm scared of space.
Do what?
No, I'm scared of space. I don't want to be there.
Yeah, well, it's really high up. It's
Yeah.
incredibly. It's not a low thing. Me too. Like if somebody was like, "Do you want to get in a space shuttle?" Space shuttles have not done well.
Yeah.
As a general, they lost like what 3 out of 7. Just
And those are the
too
ones
soon.
that didn't blow up.
Yeah, the ones that didn't blow up. So I've seen them. It's amazing. I want to be in space, but they need to really do better.
Maybe
Getting
in
us there.
200 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you transport? Like, would you say, okay, beam me up,
Oh,
Scotty?
no, I will
No
not.
transport.
There's a thing about space. It's a tagline that every horror movie set in space uses. In space, no one can hear you scream.
Ah,
Yeah, that is horrifying to me. Just the thought of it is horrifying to me. Just the endless nothingness is horrifying
well,
to me.
and there's a theory that every time you get beamed up, they take the remnants of that body that you were in and like shoot it out the airlock or put it in the, and that's it becomes Soylent Green. That is your
Yeah. By the way, we didn't. Oh, Soylent. I love Soylent Green. By the way.
Oh, good. It's so tasty.
Oh no, it's people.
No, it's people.
It's people. I love that movie.
The imagination is really something else. Well, thank you, Ali for being on tonight, and I really wish you the best in all your endeavors and your future filmmaking.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. Honestly, I've had a blast just talking about all the different things, and you can't imagine how glad I am right now.
Oh,
how
good.
happy I am.
Good. I'm glad. Let's keep in touch and let's set up a movie. I would like to thank all lowercase letters and Mr. Interrupt for the score that you've heard tonight, as well as all our Patreon members, Tim Roberts, Daniel Hulker, Nostalgic, and Natalia Klein for their financial support. Please join us on the Patreon and help us make more content like this. Art Media Vibe, Couchfire Media Productions, as well as Trois Replay Productions for all the stuff they do. This has been the Geeky Gamer Podcast, and you got to help me pronounce your name. It's Ali Khamseh.
No, it's Khamseh.
Khamseh.
Yeah, close enough. No, it's okay. Close enough.
You say it one more time. What is your name?
Ali Khamseh.
Ah, beautiful. Thank you for being on the show, and I look forward to